Roberts, I think, was embarrassed by the whole thing. But this is what it is.
Well, there are a couple of bad things that are. And they had several days after they didn't do the deed. They just let them stay silent for a couple of days. And during those days, it was clear what harm was happening. Abortion clinics were not able to perform abortions, and they were closing down. And how they could come out 2 days later and say, "Well, there's been no harm," and the harm was right there and obvious as the law had taken place. And the stories of what happened on the night before, with people crowding into the abortion clinics, desperate to get abortions before this judgment. And I mean, they're absolutely horrifying. There's one on the 19th that is just heartrending. And it tells you exactly what kind of harm this law is doing to actual human beings. The second part of it, I think, the shadow docket aspect of this is really interesting. It's something that we talked about a little bit, I think, after the moratorium was overturned by the court on the shadow docket. This gives the court an ability to, take these really radical sort of stances, just blatantly partisan and political stances, without having to listen to arguments or have any kind of reasoning behind it. They just do it, and it just sort of happens. And in fact, I think Justice Kagan even mentioned this in her dissent on the Texas law. This is getting out of hand. This is not the way it used to be. This is something that they did a lot during the Trump administration, and way more. I think it was like 8 times they used the shadow docket during the Bush and Obama administrations combined. It was something like 41 times they used it during the Trump administration, and they were generally affirming Trump policy. And now we're seeing them generally overturning Biden or Democratic policies. It's very clear what they're using this for. It's for just, simple partisan, achievement. So that is a problem. And, what do we do about that? I don't know. But the shadow docket seems to me like an absurd and bizarre sort of, institutional tactic that really needs to be looked at more closely. I think what you're seeing here is basically the Supreme Court following the lead of the Republican Party, generally speaking, in its endorsement of vigilantism as a way to obtain and maintain power. I don't think there's any doubt about it. When you look from January 6th to all the protests that are going on, which are no longer just protests, they're actual intimidation and threats. People coming, I'm bringing 20 strong men into the school board meeting and we will remove you. These people shouting in people's faces, we know where you live, and that sort of thing. This is what's happening. The martyrdom of Ashley Babbitt, the insurrectionist who was shot in the Capitol on January 6th. There is something churning on the right here that is very, very dangerous. And I think what we're seeing is an affirmation by this very conservative, hard right, radical Supreme Court majority that they are tacitly, if not overtly, endorsing this kind of behavior. They have validated a vigilante law in Texas with what they just did. And to me, that sends a signal all over the place. Citizens, go ahead, do what you need to do. And that scares me almost as much as the fact that that Roe versus Wade is essentially overturned, and we are now dealing with a free-for-all all over the country for women specifically, and most especially having to go through incredibly torturous kinds of techniques to try and exercise their fundamental human rights. So I think there's a lot going on here, and I think we're just at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we should say, it almost seems silly even to remark that 15 years ago the Republican Party was running on the frivolous lawsuits and civil litigation. Reform. Yes, of course. The shadow docket thing is also sort of fascinating to me in the sense that that they're not even bothered. Like they're. It's sort of a moment where they just, decide, let's stop pretending that we're using legal reasoning for this anyways. right? Let's just do we really have to write a long brief and take 6 months to do this?
Yeah, just one paragraph and drop it at midnight.
I mean, that's the only part about this that I think is at least somewhat clarifying. Like, this is not a court anymore, right? It is like, what would you call it? It's not, a court theoretically like this would be deliberative and would have plaintiffs and defendants there with an opportunity to make their arguments. And this is just more sort of like a star chamber type of situation where they're just basically like, let's just vote up or down, boom, that's it. And we're no longer going to, it's really just a mini legislature, right? Although there's a little bit less debate, it seems like, going on in this instance.
Well, if they don't answer to the voters, they have lifetime appointments, so their power is immense. I don't think, you got to think about the fact that these guys aren't going anywhere and there's no appeal on any of this stuff.
Well, what also, strikes me is that if you looked at like some in the left leaning, if you will, center to the left, legal establishment, there is still just sort of like a relentless refusal to accept that this is the reality of the Supreme Court, right? Where 2 days ago when you see some of these people going like, well, when they get to this, you'll see. This is not going to. It's the same stuff we heard, frankly, in the lead up to Bush v. Gore, which is this is not a case that the Supreme Court's going to take. Like, there does not seem to be an ability to deplete the delusion that many have at the highest echelons of the legal profession. The delusion that the Supreme Court is a legal institution, or that the problems ultimately when you get to this level, it's sort of like you see this in international law on some levels as well. You codify laws, but at the end of the day, there have to be people because this is like the most nascent expression of society. There have to be people who are willing to not abuse the system, right? Like, you can't. At the beginning of any formation of a society, there has to be people who are in a position of power of taking advantage of the system and don't. And we have lost that. That's gone. And one side in this sort of battle is basically still holding on to that idea. Like, how is it that I'm not watching on TV some, state legislatures in New York who are coming out saying, like, I've drafted this bill. It took me 15 minutes. If you are a gun owner and you own more than 2 guns, somebody can take you to court and sue you all around New York City, or New York State, for that matter.
It won't even be them that we sue. We're going to sue anyone who knew about you having a gun, anyone who helped you get the gun, anybody who drove you in the Uber to the gun store. I mean, this is the thing, is that, and by the way, we're searching, we're looking for the evidence here. People call in. You can call into our tip line and tell us if your neighbor has a gun. We want to know who that is, and we want to know anybody that you know that helped them. I mean, that part of it, the sort of spying on your neighbor thing, is one of the creepiest parts of this bill. Now imagine what gun owners would do. And by the way, Sam, I think we all know what the Supreme Court would do if the issue was gun ownership, don't we? Or, some kind of religious liberty. They've been very clear. I mean, they will stop at nothing to protect those rights. I think you're right. I think there are going to be test cases because there have to be, right? I mean, somebody, I don't know, in California, New York, Washington, Oregon, Connecticut, Vermont, somewhere, where somebody's going to pass one of these laws as a test case to see what happened and see whether or not, and test this with the Supreme Court. I have a strong feeling that the Supreme Court will find reasons to overturn that on some kind of, this is the sort of logic of this whole thing with them, which is, well, that was too complicated in Texas. It was just too complicated for us. We couldn't understand all that, so we're just going to let it stand. This is the Supreme Court. They exist to untangle complicated legal situations, right? I mean,
if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it?
Who is? I know.
Figured out this novel innovation. That's the whole point of the Supreme Court, right? That's the whole point. Is if you didn't have new dilemmas that come up as society evolves, you wouldn't need a Supreme Court because everything would be there. We'd all know what the answer was. You could just have a cop come over.
Exactly. And, John Roberts sort of spoke to this in he dissented from this. I guess he's the great hope of liberals everywhere that Chief Justice John Roberts is somehow going to say about us. But, of course, now we have a 6-3 and 5-4 in investigate. So that's not going to happen. But in his dissent, he did note that his reason to keep the status quo, which would mean to block the law, which was what the plaintiffs were asking the Supreme Court to do, that the reason is that they need to examine what the government is doing with this scheme, right? The scheme of having, vigilantizing the enforcement of a law and taking the state out of it for the explicit purpose of keeping it from federal judicial review. I mean, that was the idea, that they would not have any jurisdiction over it. And, of course, the justices knew that. And John Roberts brought that up in his dissent. He said, we should take our time and take a look at this, which, by the way, is, that's why this thing needs to be tested by people in some of the blue states to try and do this, because this is a real collapse in many ways if they get away with this. This is a collapse of our entire legal system in many ways. I mean, it could be. I hate to make slippery slope arguments, but, once you start down this path of saying, well, the state is no longer responsible for enforcing we'll let the citizens take care of that, you really got anarchy. I mean, that's what we're
stop them from doing this with voting.
Exactly.
What stop this from doing it? I mean, there doesn't
seem to be
any principle
here.
Well,
they seem to be testing it out. That's why the Supreme Court decided to hide behind procedure, right? Oh, you didn't file this in the exact way, and we didn't have enough time to put an emergency stay or whatever the SCOTUS term is for it on this law, which is them basically just saying, we're going to see how this goes before we rule on this Mississippi law and see if we can kind of curtail Roe without curtailing Roe. And what about this vigilante process? Can we allow that to slide? And I mean, talk about the naivete of liberal or center-left justices who don't come out of any, organization like the Federalist Society turns them out. There's a complete lack of recognition about what exactly is going on here.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, there does seem to be this. I mean, you see it in the opinions, this sort of flailing around. I mean, Justice Sotomayor said it absolutely. You put a bounty, on this. She called it bounty hunting, which is true. I mean, they weren't holding back. But on the other hand, there's still this idea of the comedy of the court, and this is what I think a lot of liberals are clinging to, is this idea that somehow the legitimacy of the court will stop them from doing their worst. Well, I remember hearing, just like you mentioned earlier, Sam, them saying that in 2000, which was the court will never intervene here because we'll make them look partisan, and they care about their legitimacy, they care about their legacy, they care. They don't care. I mean, their legitimacy is based on the fact that they have the power to exercise. They can do what they want. They have virtually unlimited power. Now, the Congress can come up, and like they're talking about now, Congress needs to go and codify Roe. And I'm going, well, geez, somebody could have thought of that over the last 40 years, but whatever. When Democrats had 60 votes in the Senate, for instance, they could have done that. But that won't solve it because the Supreme Court can come along and declare laws unconstitutional, and they do it all the time. They have a tremendous amount of power, and I think what just absolutely still galls me is the fact that on the left and the Democratic Party in general has had a tremendously difficult time getting through, making that case that the Supreme Court is hugely, hugely important. It's been up in every election since I can remember, Supreme Court, but it was almost like an afterthought. It was never the central part. Whereas on the right, they made it the central part.
Well, obviously, I think everybody who listens to this program knows that's that has been an argument that would make an ear for a long time. But I would also add that in this particular case, not only the right focus on this on the Supreme Court like a laser, I'm quite convinced that there's an argument that one of the primary factors in Donald Trump winning had nothing to do with Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, but had more to do with Mitch McConnell and Merrick Garland. And that empty seat brought a lot of people out for a candidate that was, subpar, on the Republican side. Certainly, I think it's quite clear that our Democratic candidate was also subpar in terms of a candidacy. But they motivate for and the other thing is that this also, abortion. Well, first of all, it's a constitutional right, and it is pretty straightforward as far as these things go. There's a lot of things this court's going to do over the next month to 40 years that are going to fundamentally alter the way that we have the relationship we have with our government. And you can see it from the context of abortion. You can see it in the context of Medicare for all, if you want. You can see it in the context of the EPA being able to regulate the quality of your drinking water. It doesn't matter. It's going to affect all of these things. As a political matter, you and I touched on this a little bit for the second hour on the Peacock show yesterday, but there's two things that I understand the strategy behind enshrining this in law. That maybe the Democrats didn't want to, they didn't want to wade into that culture war before, and that maybe there's an argument of the way you draw people's attention to it if the Supreme Court overturns it is to do this, is to deploy it now, and they should. It's not going to pass. They don't have the filibuster. Manchin's certainly not going to give them the filibuster for the sake of this. But all the Democrats are going to vote for it. But it will put maybe Susan Collins in a tough position, maybe, or maybe give her an out or something in the Senate. But it will be something that Democrats can use in an off-year election to maybe hold the Senate, maybe hold the House. Tougher to do. But there are two things, it seems to me, that will motivate voters, or at least we saw in 2018. One is people voting against Donald Trump and not having the ability to vote against Donald Trump. And so they vote against Republicans as a proxy. And you made this point yesterday that there was a lot of women who came out within days of Donald Trump winning that election. Part of it was because they understood the right to choose an abortion, the right to get an abortion is hanging in the balance. And those are the voters who made the difference in 2018, it seems.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was writing about this for Salon for this morning, and I went back and looked, and they did polling on what issues people cared about when they came out for the Women's March. And of course, the march was an attempt to repudiate Donald Trump and the Republicans and everything they stood for, from, anti-science to the Muslim ban to everything, torture, all of it. But 40% said abortion was their top issue. And when you look at the footage of that march in 2017, many of the signs were about a woman's right to choose. I mean, there was just no doubt that people understood, and I did. The minute I realized that Donald Trump had won the election, my heart sank because I knew that Roe versus Wade was very likely over, that it would take a miracle for it to survive with 4 years of Donald Trump, a seat open, and then, I think we knew that there were going to be retirements.
Breyer and Ginsburg, the idea of retirement or, frankly, of death was quite high.
Yeah, and we also knew that Anthony Kennedy, and it could have been Kennedy or Thomas, that there was going to be a change over there. Kennedy was, of course, the swing vote. I mean, this was what really made the difference, was when he retired, and of course they put in that hag Brett Kavanaugh. And there was a huge brouhaha about that. I mean, there were definitely plenty of protests, but that's because we knew that this was where it was headed, and that it was almost, in the bag, that they were going to be able to overturn Roe versus Wade, or at least chip away at it to the extent that it was basically useless, as we're seeing in Texas, and then we're probably seeing with the Mississippi case that's going to come up in the next session. So, this was Donald Trump, the election of Republicans at this point, and this is something that Democrats have to bring home, and hopefully Donald Trump will make that obvious. I mean, yesterday there was, Lauren Windsor, who does this sort of, undercover work where she gets these Republicans on record.
We played Ron Johnson one the other day.
Yeah, well, she had one on Jim Jordan last night, and Jim Jordan said to her, I just talked to the president yesterday, he's going to announce, and he's going to announce imminently. And he's on tape saying it. So, and I think there's no doubt, because Trump has to start to get rid of people like DeSantis and Nikki Haley and others, even his own guys like Pompeo. They're making a move, and he's not going to be able to resist, I don't think, getting them out of the race, or putting them back. So Trump is going to be part of this argument, and that will be helpful, I think, in 2022. And I think you're absolutely right. But also, as we said yesterday, the Republicans have decided they're going to run on culture war issues. This is what they care about. They haven't said much of anything about the infrastructure bill or anything. It's very mild criticism, like whatever.
Listen, when you have Joe Manchin out there talking about,
they don't need it. But they are pushing culture war stuff, and I think that's where they think. And of course, that's Donald Trump's. That's his main appeal, is culture war stuff. So. The Democrats can't avoid this. And not only should they not avoid that argument, they should go right at it, because there is a culture here. And by the way, we on our side have some culture war, issues we'd like to litigate as well. And this abortion ruling is one of them. There are others as well, like voting rights and racism and the rest of it. I mean, we've got that. So let's do it. Let's go out there and have that argument. Meanwhile, if the Democrats can get Joe Manchin on board. Can I just say one thing about Manchin before we go? We need to let Manchin be, the $3.5 trillion that we have in this reconciliation bill that he's now saying you can't vote for because it's too big. It's not really $3.5 trillion. It's much less than that with the offsets and the pay-fors and the regular things that they're putting together. So what they should do, this is my plan, come out and say, yes, we're doing $3.5 trillion, and then later announce, oh no, it's way less than that, which it actually is. And it's all because Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema came in here, we negotiated together. They really helped us find our way, and we got the price tag down because of them. Give them their day in the sun so that they can walk around and pretend like they know something.
It's $2.7 trillion. It's 2
points that they brought it down to 2.7, and let me just tell you, we realize the error of our ways, and just let them have because they're divas, and they need to have this, they want to be mavericks in this whole thing. But in any case, that is not what the election is going to turn on in 2022. I don't believe it is important to do it. You have to do it to help people. But the Democrats have to recognize the field as it is, and the field is going to be culture war, and they need to not stop being afraid of it. Because, by the way, abortion rights, there is majority support for abortion rights.
Fox is afraid of it. Fox is afraid of it. Apparently, Aaron Rupar, who watches that, for his job, I saw he tweeted that within for the first 15 hours or so of their programming, Fox didn't mention abortion once in the wake of this ruling. They don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, and look at the senators and legislators. They haven't been rushing out there, saying how great it is what Texas has got.
Yeah.
I mean,
I am 100% on board with this. The Democrats have to use what is going to be in their best advantage. The passage of the reconciliation bill. There was an interesting story in Politico, and it really sort of summed up what we've all noticed over the past couple of months. Nancy Pelosi, the leadership in the House, basically wants to use Medicare savings to shore up the ACA. And then Sanders wants the Medicare savings to expand benefits for people getting Medicare right now, dental, vision. I mean, the dental thing is just seems a no-brainer. Why do we decide? It's just such a bizarre. We only cover kidney operations. We don't cover any, spleen or lung stuff. That's just the way that we do our health insurance. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the big fight is going to be over dropping the age. And I am a big proponent of dropping the age, even if it's 5 years, because once you start to expand that pool of people and you basically say, we can do this, I think you're a little bit more off to the races. But this is a big fight that's happening. And so the material benefit, hopefully, will be delivered, at least in some part, by the Democrats in a way that we haven't seen them do before. The question is how do you activate the negative partisanship that wins you elections in this environment? And there's, I think 3 words: Donald Trump and abortion, and that is it. And that's all. Everything they need has been dealt to them. And it's just a question of how they play that hand at this point. It would be complete malpractice. I mentioned this. They elevated Lynn Cheney on this January 6th commission, and I think part of that, I hope, is that when the Republicans come and say, you cannot subpoena the phone records of some of these rioters who came in on January 6th, because it's possible a couple of congressional names might be there, and Trump would point. If the Democrats back off that, honestly, this is not even about ideology, or maybe it is for them. They just don't. But it's just about practice good politics. Make them wear Donald Trump, and if we're lucky, Donald Trump comes out and he announces that he's entering the election prior to the midterms. All right. So with all that said, I want to just touch on we've got to touch on this. In a matter of days, really effectively, end of day today, 7.5 million people are going to lose some form of their unemployment benefits. Millions are going to lose the $300 extra they were getting from the federal government. Millions are going to lose all of their unemployment insurance because they were, so-called gig workers. This is a real problem. There's plenty of data that came out that show that the states that rolled back their unemployment insurance, the extra benefits, the extra expansion of it in terms of who gets it, there was no appreciable jump at all in employment. Some studies show that the employment grew at a slower rate. And, it's hard to disaggregate. Those states probably more likely are having a Delta surge, right? Because they have no other things that are going on. And so it's hard to sort of assess that. Maybe people are I don't care, that they stripped me of my unemployment. I'm not going back and risking my life for this. But it shows that there's just what is driving unemployment right now, and the unwillingness of people to go back to certain jobs is the deadly pandemic we're in the midst of. Not, I'm living large because I now have the ability to pay my rent or something. And I mean, this in months from now, you combine this with the eviction moratorium, we're going to have a serious, serious crisis in this country, it seems to me.
Well, it certainly seems like it's a time bomb, right? Just waiting to go off. I mean, the jobs numbers came out this morning, and were much, less than what the economists have been predicting. There'd been a huge upsurge in job growth in June and July, and in August it flattened out. It's much less than what they expected. And of course, I mean, I think you're right. This is about COVID. This is about COVID. The hospital, I mean, we're seeing, stories every day of hospitals being overrun. People argue they had gunshot wound victims in Oklahoma who were unable to get care because the hospitals were overrun with COVID patients. And we all know the reason for that. We don't need to belabor it. We have a bunch of people who are refusing to get vaccinated, and they're going into the hospital and dying, and burdening our healthcare system. But nonetheless, that's what's happening. And the idea that somehow or another you're going to just remove all the sort of infrastructure, the support infrastructure that had been built in really from the beginning of the pandemic, going back to the first Share Act under Trump, that suddenly they're just going to fall off while we're having this massive new surge in COVID seems bizarre to me. Now, the eviction moratorium, we saw what happened with that. Biden was in the administration, they were pressured into reinstating it. They said outright that this is going to be overturned by the Supreme Court, but we're going to do it. Maybe we can buy some time, because there was a lot of money sitting in pots around the country in local and state jurisdictions that hadn't distributed the money to people that could have helped them over the hump.
Yeah, like 5 or 7% of the $43 some odd billion has been appropriated.
I don't know what's happened to the money, but I guess I assume it's just sitting there. But I don't know. Maybe they've spent it on other things, like Donald Trump's Secret Service. I don't even know. But they were able to get a little bit of time. But I haven't heard. Maybe you have. Whether or not they were able to speed up the distribution of those funds, I don't know. So now we're having this unemployment thing, and you remember when they first extended it in the original, COVID relief package under the Biden administration. There was a huge brouhaha about the unemployment benefits. They wanted to cut them off in July, I think, and they managed to extend it through to where it is now. So this is a huge political fight. But it's ridiculous, because at the time we were thinking that the pandemic was actually coming to a close. If everyone, I don't think, Mitch McConnell said this week, it never occurred to me that people wouldn't get vaccinated. Well, and everybody made fun of him for it. Kind of felt the same way. I didn't know this many people would refuse to get vaccinated. I just kind of thought that vaccinations were a no-brainer. But obviously I was wrong, and Mitch McConnell and I both were wrong on that. And this is where we are. So you've got to adjust to the new circumstance. And, this political fight shouldn't even be happening. The pandemic is still going on. We're still in the emergency. The economy is reflecting that. We're seeing the job growth fall off pretty precipitously because of it. We're seeing growth, fall off. There's a lot, the fact that we can't be more nimble with these things, that there's no ability to kind of just shift gears if you have to do it, that we're locked into this kind of thing, is just absolutely terribly frustrating. And you're right. This is a time bomb waiting to go up. And, I think that if the Republicans have their way, Jamil Bowie in the New York Times wrote a piece about how the Republicans were consciously trying to extend the COVID crisis for political purposes. That they're doing it with the knowledge people are dying, but it's okay. And if you look at a guy like Ron DeSantis, there's no doubt. Of course he's doing it for political purposes. And, if that's the case, this time bomb is going to be set to go off in time for the election in 2022. And they can, they'll be able to deploy the Biden failed, containing the virus, the economies in the toilet, and look at what a failure he's been. We have to put the adults back in charge. And, I can see that happening, and I really hope the Biden people are aware of it and are doing everything they can to ensure
the dollars. Yep. Well, one hopes so. I guess I don't even see any. I haven't seen any talk of addressing this. Have you?
No, I mean, this is like it's just happening. It's like one of these things where we're just going, well, that's it. That's the rule. Something that's what I'm saying. There's no sense that there's a nimbleness. It's like that. There's just things seem just really stuck in the gears right now. And I know that they're focusing heavily on the reconciliation bill and on the infrastructure bill, and it's huge because it's going to, it has to do with the budget and the debt ceiling and all the rest of this big fight is coming up. But this is actual real people right now that are going to be in very big trouble when this money falls off, and they're in the middle of a Delta surge. What are they going to do? I mean, what are you going to do?
And we should say, the Delta right now, anyways, it appears at least, we may have peaked, or at least in some of the most populous states. But I hate to reiterate, there's a lot more letters in the Greek alphabet after Delta.
Exactly.
Heather, always a pleasure, even when we are talking about this massive crap show that is our situation.
We're sorry for missing your theme song earlier at the top.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay, but I do love my theme song. I do love
it. Something nice for Heather.
Come on,
for
man.
a change.
Yeah. Just
We're gonna play you out that way. Thanks so much. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Check out Hullabaloo, folks.
Kind of works to play around like that.
Yeah, we should do what? We should play her in and out. Frankly, it's what we should be doing.
I sense you being a little bit shy about playing the theme on the Peacock Hour.
No,
It's like, now you haven't come for it.
I forgot. It's because like
Doing too much.
it's all the COVID made me forget about theme songs in some weird way. No, I am
drops. Yeah.
I am all in favor of the theme songs.
I think we're heading into the fun half.
And we're heading into the fun half, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to walk over there, and I'm going to put on the first tank top I have ever worn. Maybe ever, and certainly publicly. And we have, at this point, wait, what did I say? $50 per flex?
We do have one $50 super chat. I don't know if it was for the occasion, but I do just feel like I should read it out. Ezekiel Mordecai said it's Friday, and he conservative anti-vax pundits croak yet today.
And there you go. And we have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 $50 donations already at the GoFundMe, which you can find the link underneath the YouTube description.
And it's bit.ly/MR capital A Afghan. That's what it was. That's what was started. Those bit.ly links, they're so specific because they're so short. So it's everything's lowercase except the A in Afghan.
Sorry about that,
The
folks.
first A.
Yeah, click on that. So I got a couple of flexes. What did I say? $50? Probably should have made it 100. The sort of low bar.
Oh my God, we really have raised.
What is this called when you make it? You're making the market, or you figure out what the market is for.
Yeah, a mark to market or something like that. Oh gosh. Oh my God, I played. My little league team was Jesse Burkett. Yeah. All right, folks. We're gonna take a gun show. Huh?
It's about to be a gun show.
It's about to be a gun show. All right, we'll be right back after this break.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you. Alpha males are back. And the alpha males are back. Just as delicious as you can imagine. The alpha males are back. And the alpha males are back. Just wanna degrade the white man. Alpha males are back. I take all of it tonight. Alpha males are back. Snowflakes has one. And the alpha males are back. You're out of gas, man. And the alpha males are back. Oh no, Sam Cedar, what a fucking nightmare. Yeah, or a couple of put them in rotation.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long.
All white people in the stuff. And the alpha males are psycho. Fuck 'em. Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what? A hell of a lot of back. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of back. Have you tried doing an impression of a college campus? I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych. And the alpha males are back. And the alphas are black. After you, and the alpha males are black. And the alphas are back.
See now from out there, doesn't a little more do you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keep it at 100. Cannot hustle. Come on, buckle. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, you boy.
I have a thought experiment for you. And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Someone needs to pay the price of gasoline around here. I am a total.
Yeah, music. This shirt, incidentally, was a present from Ronald Reagan. That was it.
French.
Oh God. This is really, this is, oh boy, this is really. This is not comfortable at all. This is, so ladies and gentlemen, this, don't take a picture. This is, don't take a picture, I guess at this point it's what's going on, like, oh, there we go. Like now I'm like, all right, well, part of it, let me just start this way. So I have a semi-dislocated shoulder,
Okay.
which I've never talked about because I've not had to show it on camera. I did a show called Guy Island for NBC 20 some odd years ago, and Warren Littlefield said, I want more physical comedy from Sam. And I did a flip off a bed. I missed the padding. There was no stunned person there, and I dislocated my shoulder. So you can see that. This is really. I may have to turn off the camera. Like I can't. This is really.
Look at yourself.
It's so much data in that shirt.
I know.
This shirt, incidentally,
But yeah, move
from
it.
Ronald Reagan, and you'll see it is, of course, Thanos.
Okay, from the back
Like,
here.
OBS is sending like 4 gigabytes per second, right?
So, I mean, do I have to do a flex for each $50 that's already been there? Like, can I hold one for like 30 seconds or something?
Well, I think it's each arm flexing, so if you do both arms, that counts for 2.
What number are we at now? All right. No, oh gosh. Oh, okay. Here's a couple right there. There we go.
Whoa!
There we go. There's a couple more. It's for a good service. All right. So we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Wow. Yeah. Now I should tell you, over there is where Matt is sitting, and Bradley is sitting over there. And of course, Emma is over there,
Being
all wearing
that counts as the flex.
Suns out, guns out today. And so there it is. The URL is bit.ly. We should have done this towards the end. bit.ly/MR scan.
Right. And all the others are lower.
Right. MR Afghan capital A on that. So there it is. So should we continue on with the show?
Yeah, I think we should play number, 12? I think it kind of goes with the tank tops a little bit.
Okay. Can't even look at you.
We'll get a couple more. We'll catch up with some of the flexing that is necessary. I got this whole. I'm staring at this thing and it's really uncomfortable.
You know what I like is that it's swimsuit material.
This is.
Yeah.
It goes. You mean it's made out of swimsuit?
Right. I mean, it's not like a traditional cotton tank top. I mean, it's
like sheer.
It's right.
It's very sheer. Yeah. No, this is very comfortable.
It's very chemical.
Yeah, this is pure petroleum.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We got.
The dye's just gonna permanently seep into your skin.
Yeah.
He's gonna take it off. He's gonna go.
But also, was that you wearing tank top and you wearing a tank?
Yeah, but I wear a
shirt tabs like
yeah.
It sort of looks like a normal outfit for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
He's got a Knicks jersey on. Oh gosh. All right. So.
You do have a $50 super chat from Andy Gonzalez. It should be normal, he says.
There we go.
Oh!
There you go. All right. Now let's. What number was it?
Look up, yeah.
I'm gonna pass out in a second. 12. 12. All right.
What about 12?
This is a late entry for Song of the Summer. I came across this yesterday on YouTube.
This is from musician Andre Antunes. This is the. Oh, okay. So this is Greg Lotz. He is the Vision Bible Church pastor. He had remarks on the 16th. And, well, here it is. Oh, but I will be direct. That is fantastic, though.
I like how he has to kind of know when the speech is going to speed up, or like he has to intimately know it before.
It's amazing use of, I'm a big, I wasn't ever a huge metal guy. Never made a huge part of my identity, but I was a big Mastodon and Gojira fan, and the ability to change sort of tempos and modes and movements very quickly. I think that's a great use of sort of prog metal.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's fantastic. We may take phone calls today. I'm not going to promise anything.
This is Ronald Reagan's big day.
Blinded by the Right said, I was kind of expecting Sam to spray tan away the blinding white like John Legend spraying away the bald when he did the live show. I mean,
You're not that white.
I'm not that white. I got a little bit. I made a point of exposing my shoulders a little bit to the sun. But I don't feel comfortable with this at all.
You look super uncomfortable.
Yeah, I feel about it.
You look tense.
Yeah. No,
right?
I don't think I've ever felt this uncomfortable. And I've done some very inappropriate things on stage, anyways. And this is really right out there.
Rain Tree material donation say thanks, Sam. Hunk. So
almost $1,000.
It somehow looks worse on camera. I feel in person it might even look a little bit better. You look just completely
Tense.
Tense. Yeah,
maybe
right.
I gotta zoom out just a little bit.
When I see the full the head-on image of you, you look like, I don't know, just a shell of yourself.
All right. Oh boy. Well, we busted through the goal. That's great.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Wow, we got a lot of. All right. We got Alex and a bunch of anonymous. Let's see. Janeth, Gregory, Jordan, Greg, Kevin, Colton, Mark, Peter, Cody. This is wow. David, Trist. Let's see. Summer. All right. Let me do 5 quick ones. A double shot. All right. One. Oh God.
Good workout.
Yep. I strained something. I'm hurt. I'm definitely hurt. I'm definitely
Strain that shoulder.
Yep. I'm definitely I'm hurt. Let's take some. Oh God. Let's do some.
Saboteur wants to know where your holsters are for those guns.
Yeah, they're left in the closet.
Cigars and flex, Sammy, for the Afghan sport. So
Yeah, so there you go. Let's see. We're gonna go back. I forgot to turn on the IM thing, so I gotta. Where are we? Let's see. Bear with me, folks. It's hard to read them this way. I'm gonna go backwards. Oh my God, needed this so bad. On the socialist side, can someone check the levels, or is that tank too loud? Can we Thanos snap half the colors off that shirt? If someone gets 500, will you oil the arms? I'm sorry for asking. Oh boy, there's one Cyber Manifesto. There we go. The Centennials are going to pass out. I think I'm starting to hyperventilate. Sam, didn't realize you were a canceling and carrying guy. I can see why you'd be a crowd or a heart attack. Second poll. Is it really A, unbelievable, B, stunning, and C, absurd, says Sam McKee. Sam needs some bidet to relieve that tension. For me to feel better, Sam, I looked at you and went back to audio only, said Rob Corker. Thank you. Sam needs some Sunset Lake to take the edge off, says right hand lefty. This should be the new Friday thing, Sleepless Fridays. It's Coach McGurk. Greased up bicep dance, Sam, says Scoop Loose.
I just saw a super chat from Ronald Reagan. Let's see those lats, my guy.
The lats?
Those for $169.
I don't even know where the lats are. Where are the lats? I don't have any muscle here.
He wants you. You gotta flex your back.
Reagan sent me this shirt. That's the only reason why I did that. Sam, I've decided not to watch Suns Out, Guns Out today. There are some things I simply cannot unsee. I understand. I was kind of expecting Santa. Let's see. Can I get a shofar from my favorite internet micro celebrity Sam Sadar, who's recovering from a shoulder dislocation? Parental guidance is advised for displays of violence and lewd gestures against humanity, says Sam's logician. I want Sam to squish my head between his biceps. Yummy, says Jersey Max. Not gonna lie, Emma has some guns too, says Kevin from Philadelphia. We need a group pick of all of you in the tanks. Yeah, I guess we probably should. Transit Rodeo. Oh my, the gun show has commenced. Swoon. Tim Pool is in love. To infinity and beyond, the farmer's stand. Dr. Chaos MD, can I get a shofar, please? I proposed to my partner last night. She said yes. In addition to the shofar, cynical but humorous quips will also be accepted at this time. Left is best, and you should join the Socialist Rifle Association with guns like that. Congratulations. Drew says, Emma, do a flex.
I think I did already.
Wow.
All right.
And Ray says, Sam looks like one of those turn of the century, 19th, 20th century beachgoers.
Turn of the...
I know.
Yeah, right. Like, it has to be full body.
Yeah, I guess if you ignore the octopus shirt.
Okay. Kyle is telling me that I am one step away from a Twitch hot tub stream.
We're one step away from an OnlyFans.
I know. Wow, we're doing great. Oh my gosh. $3,800. Somebody did $250 donation. $3,800 for that's fantastic.
3,800.
Wow.
No, $3,800.
Wow, we are like
That's
rocketing past that goal.
Oh boy. Here we go. Let me do a couple more of these for you folks. Here we go.
You've got to like psych yourself up for it.
Honestly, I should be drinking right now, but I've got like two or three other interviews to do after this, which I'm actually going to check out.
Yeah. You got it. Why are you making that noise?
I'm sad. All right. Okay. Let's. Are we doing clip videos from this?
We were a superpower. We are now a hyperpower. We were saying a YouTube channel of Only Sam's.
Only Sam's. That's the. That's my new. Oh yeah. That's where we're going to go now that we've got completely demonetized probably every single one of our platforms. We're going to
Gina McGrath with the $50 donation sets up with the emoji, pickle emoji, droplets, water emoji, and mussel emoji.
I'm not sure I follow all that, and I'm not sure I want to. So that's that.
4,000.
Wow, you doubled it already.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Apparently, Ronald Reagan is already in trouble from his wife for his donation. It popped up. What's going on? Why are you doing that? What's going on? And I noticed he just wrote back, it's a donation through Majority Report for Afghan refugees. Why don't you just write back that I also got Sam to wear a Thanos sleeveless shirt? When your wife finds that out, you're in big trouble.
Trying to sanitize. Very believable.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, well, I guess this is appropriate. Let's see what Dave Rubin is cooking up. He's back, right? Did he take a little vacation?
A little bit, right? The whole month of August.
Took the month of August, and he's out with a new theory about people who wear masks out and about. Incidentally, Delta is really becoming a little bit of a problem in LA County, incidentally.
Still hasn't moved.
Oh, one policy that David and I did institute over the last couple of weeks since we've been back is when we're walking Clyde, I will say hello and smile and say how you doing to every single neighbor that is not wearing a mask. But I've decided I'm not saying hello to the mask people anymore. And the reason for that is what I've realized over the last couple of weeks is that the mask people are not friendly as a general rule. And of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. But the mask people, I would say hi to, and they just ignore you. They're actually using it as an excuse to never.
No, wait a second. Pause it.
What I found is that,
I know I may be taking this a little bit too seriously, but didn't you just say that we started a policy?
And like an
Past few
internal
weeks.
policy with him and his husband.
Right, no, I understand. But they started out not saying hi to people wearing masks, and he's found that they're not as friendly as the people who are unmasked, or he's saying hi to. So he's finding that the people he says hi to are more friendly than the people he doesn't say
I
hi to.
suppose he would argue that maybe he said hi to a few masked people and maybe gave a little bit of attitude.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I knew who it was.
Probably there are people in his neighborhood who don't like him.
Yeah, and you're taking it too seriously. He didn't do any of this.
Right, of course.
He
That's
didn't
true.
do any of this.
That's true too. Of course, we did it one time. But all right, let's go back.
excuse to never be human anymore. And what I have found is the non-masked people tend to be friendlier and nicer and happier. So that's what I mean about we're just going to further split into two worlds. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Because the world that I'm going to help build and that I'm going to talk about.
How about I have an idea. What happened to his talking about he was going to leave California and go to someplace that's more friendly to people with his perspective, like in Texas? Where's he go to Texas?
Think about Florida too and Nashville.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that he's not going. But
Hard to give up that saltwater pool.
it's tough to get rid of the saltwater pool, and it's also,
LA's nice too.
LA. There you go. All right, continue.
The world that I'm going to help build and that I'm going to talk about and that you guys are going to be part of is going to be a world that's based on the ideas that we're always talking about here, right? And maybe it feels a little like a civil war. It's not fun to talk about, but at this point, this gets me back to the beginning. I just don't see a way around it. But that doesn't mean it has to be horrible. I don't want people fighting in the streets. And for those of us that are more freedom focused, it's trickier for us because we can build something good and they're going to still want a piece of it, right? Where we don't really want, like, they can go build your institutions, build your crappy colleges and your stupid businesses built on diversity and build bad products and have the Emmys now and have all of that stuff.
Wait. It's very easy. Go back even a little further. It's very easy to listen to Dave Rubin and just write off everything he says because he's a total moron. But for a moment, as he's explaining this to you, like, try and figure out like what he has in his own mind. He's not like is he talking about like what like when he's trying to express something to people.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to figure out what the hell he's talking about.
Well, a friendly civil war, a neighborly, bloodless civil war.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be fighting in the streets. It's just be like they're going to go over here and create their institutions and dumb colleges and dumb businesses. Now, where is over there?
He's going to create some sort of Tomorrowland utopia for libertarian types.
But is he talking about like a physically different place, or is he talking about like we're just going to
spaces? We're going to be in our own separate digital realms, and they're perfectly separated from each other. And especially people that criticize.
But the problem is they're going to come over and try and buy our products, which are going to be better. Which, of course, if you're selling products, you probably
you like as many people as
want that
to buy those as possible.
Well, no, he's going to bring people over to this new state, and eventually it will make the liberal state obsolete.
Is he talking about? That's what I mean. Like, is he talking about like a different physical place?
Maybe he wants to secede in California, right?
No, I don't think so at all.
Gilead.
This is purely like a cult leader, the way they say cults insulate you from any other media. Dave is on the place now, so he's not trying this mass pitch. He wants to just sort of continue to monetize the idiots that are still somehow like being fooled by him as if he has something.
The thing I like about Dave is that he's got a vision for the future where we don't have to commingle with those masked type of people.
And the people who like diversity too.
The masked type of people are going to try and tune into his show on the Blaze. Dave is going to keep them out.
And Dave's also going to be talking about those sorts of people as the main thing of content every single day, as in like what they're doing and how crazy they're going, because that's all they ever talk about.
Yeah, what would he do if they actually existed in a separate society? He'd have no content to like kind of vaguely point at in terms of
that's going crazy.
Yeah.
It's just such a bizarre sort of like I can't even figure out like what he's got in his own head, or if it's just like some notion of like I mean, isn't that what's going on right now anyways? Like, what is it that he like, I don't know.
Well, it's happening and I'm going to be paid, so I like it.
And I'm not going to, like, and I guess, I mean, is there any doubt that his real estate agent is wearing a mask right now? The person who sold him that house. Where would he buy that house? How would he buy that house?
I have no doubt that he probably just wears them because he doesn't want conflict in his everyday life.
Well, that's what he said a few.
Yeah, he said that. He said, like, I wear it anyways.
It's going to cost a big problem. I'll put it on.
All right, dude. Then there you go.
All right, continue. I'm sorry.
More freedom focused, it's trickier for us because we can build something good and they're going to still want a piece of it, right? Where you don't really want, like, they can go build your institutions, build your crappy colleges and your stupid businesses built on diversity and build bad products and have the Emmys now and have all of that stuff.
Oh, that's the thing. Go back just a little bit. You talk about a guy who is obviously like, think about any context where you say, build your crappy colleges, your institutions, your products and Emmys.
Yeah, that fourth thing isn't necessarily one of like the top things I think about when structuring a new society.
This is Dave Rubin finally figuring out how he's going to overcome the fact that he was never ever had a modicum of success in his original chosen field. Now, I also came from a similar field. We can debate as to whether I actually achieved what people would consider success in that field.
Well, certainly more successful than
I was gainfully employed until the day, even through the time that I entered into this industry. I still do Bob's Burgers, but not nearly with the frequency that I used to. But Dave was so desperate to make it as a stand-up and I've talked to reporters who he would email trying to get coverage of him as a stand-up at one point. It's really one of the most uncomfortable conversations you can have. And somehow the Emmy is what his goal was. Such a bizarre sort of like.
It's not even.
It popped into his head.
Yeah, and it's not even a good award.
Or maybe it was
Oscar.
He wanted to be Larry King or something. I don't know what it was. But yeah, go back and listen. It's just so funny how it's possible.
Man, ever winning the Emmy.
But at least I'll always have the reason is because people wore masks, and that's why I didn't win the Emmy. Play it.
Wait, this gets me back to the beginning. I just don't see a way around it. But that doesn't mean it has to be horrible. I don't want people fighting in the streets. And for those of us that are more freedom focused, it's trickier for us because we can build something good and they're going to still all want a piece of it, right? Where we don't really want, like, they can go build your institutions, build your crappy colleges and your stupid businesses built on diversity and build bad products and have the Emmys now and have all of that stuff. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't care about that stuff. But they're going to still want our stuff, right? Because we're going to build better products and we're going to build better business.
I don't care about the Emmys. No. Don't care about the Oscars either. Hey, keep your Webbies. We don't care.
I don't care about the varsity basketball team.
Oh my gosh. All right, so go for, oh my gosh. Yeah, I read. No, $6,899 raised. Somebody gave $1,000. Wow, that's fantastic. Yep.
Thank you so much.
This is really great. Wow, somebody gave. John Benjamin, look at that, $500. He just wants to see me flex. Anonymous. Thank you, Kyle, Diane, Connor, and Jesse, Christopher, Stefan, Eva. Anonymous, Shane, Scott, William, Mark, Paul, Ian, Kyle, Vince, Alexander, Jeffrey, Raymond, Anonymous. That's just in the past 9 minutes. All right, let me do a couple of these. I really do got to steal myself.
You psych yourself up.
Yeah, here we go. This is like, honestly, I can feel like it's like I'm doing a bungee jump. Can I get some music or something?
Yeah, of course. Your stomach's going to drop.
There we go.
Mission Impossible. More jazzy. We do this.
Okay. You good brother. Oh Lord. Oh boy. Can we put a logo underneath for any clips that say it's guns out, raising money? So we can explain this.
I'm going to clip and say this was after Action Post Stephen Crowder.
We gotta get Dorsey to put that on.
We should just put together a montage to, sexy music, and the caption can just be Sam wanted everyone to see this.
Yeah. This actually makes sense, all things considered. This is happening around the country in terms of like the insanity that's going on. This is a testifier at a Seminole County school board meeting in Sanford, Florida. This happened yesterday. I think people have seen one iteration of this after another around the country. And we can't even look at me without making a straight face. Should just say that you were doing a fundraiser. Here is this testifier at the school board meeting explaining the situation. All I can tell you is I got vaccinated, and then this happened. So.
Order, allow the speaker to finish. Thank you.
The deep state medical establishment wants all of us to be depopulated. I know you guys think that's a conspiracy theory, but it's not. It's a conspiracy fact. They're all in cahoots with each other to depopulate us. They want us divided. They want all of us to fight each other so they can win. This is good versus evil. Evil's not going to prevail. All you've done is awaken a sleeping giant here. Every parent here wants freedom, except maybe some of them that are brainwashed by the deep state media. I used to watch Fox News deliberately. I'm a conservative. I don't even watch that now because Hannity, all the rest of them let me tell you who I do listen to, which are renowned doctors. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Christine Woodward, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Ned Malenko, Dr. Lee Barrett, Dr. Janelle Gold, and Dr. Scott Atlas. Those are true doctors. They have disinformation when they go against deep state narratives. Guess what? You can't find them on Google or anything. So here's where I suggest you go. DuckDuckGo.
Your comments.
Where are we at?
Please wrap up your comments. Your time's up.
How many minutes do I have left?
0.
But anyways, I want all of you to think real carefully because if you're up for re-election next year, it's going to be very difficult because when the truth does come out and all the people that believe in masks realize they were lied to and conned, I don't think they're going to vote for you either.
Thank you.
Anyways, I strongly recommend that all of you turn off the fake news, stop living in fear, embrace freedom of choice over fear.
So I looked up one of those doctors, any name, apart from the Hoover Institution guy.
Scott Atlas, who's in the White House being censored.
Yeah, Sherry Tenpenny, based doctor, also told Ohio lawmakers that coronavirus vaccines could magnetize during an Ohio House hearing on June 8th.
You see how this anti-vax stuff is just so intertwined with evangelical. Yeah. Oh.
Won't fall off. Whoa, won't fall off.
Wow.
Won't fall off.
Probably just because it's sticking to you because you're so nervous
I
sweating
know.
that you have to wear this tank
sweat.
top on
Yes,
here.
exactly.
But you see how this is just so intertwined with evangelical magical thinking here, right? They're evil and we're the good ones and we're standing up to this and this kind of demonic establishment that they've manufactured. And then when he starts listing doctors, right? That's the exact kind of thing Fox is trying to trigger with talk to your doctor. 1, they're not going to talk to their doctor. 2, a lot of people don't have insurance or the ability to speak to a doctor, and if they do, not exactly sure if a visit about should I get vaccinated is going to be covered, and they also may have doctors who are going to fit into their ideological mode there. But it makes it seem like you have to talk to your doctor about this incredibly serious medical decision, when in reality the people who this would affect, if they need to speak to their doctor, they're already speaking to their doctor about every treatment because they're seriously ill. This is a tiny sliver.
This is what he said about Hannity. I found really interesting too, because the Republicans are feeding this because they want it to be they want the 2022 version of 2010, which was people going to ACA meetings, healthcare meetings, Tea Party people going to healthcare meetings. They want it to be the same thing. The problem is, I think, is that any utterance of like you should get vaccinated or you should wear a mask becomes completely verboten for these people. And so, we should have Democratic candidates right now, saying to these, questioning Republican candidates. Now, maybe there's an opportunity for some primaries, too, to happen, because you want one of these lunatics to be the Republican candidate. I think it's also possible that the country is just so half. That's basically it.
Right.
Just a reminder, we're doing a fundraiser.
Cut this out, Dorsey.
No, we're doing a fundraiser for three organizations that help Afghan people in resettle. And one is the Afghan Diaspora for Equality and Progress. One is the International Rescue Committee. And the third is PARS Equality Center. They all do different things. We have links up at the GoFundMe site. You can get to the GoFundMe site by going to bit.ly / all lowercase letters, MR, uppercase A, the rest lowercase, Afghan. So it's bit.ly / MR Afghan, and the A is a capital letter. We also have it under the YouTube.
I tweeted out the link along with some photos of you. And
you did not tweet out photos. Oh my God.
What are you talking about? We're broadcasting it.
Wow, gosh.
$8,500, by the way. $8,500.
$8,500, and then also we've got a bunch on Super Chat too. I don't know. We don't have a tally there.
I also want to mention, because the Washington Post wrote about this yesterday, about the Afghan refugees. They're technically not refugees. They are arriving as humanitarian parolees, and so they don't have the ability to, they don't have an easy path to legal U.S. residency and traditional benefits, unlike other refugees. They'll only get a one-time $1,250 stipend, and they're not going to have the medical and mental health safety net, which is threadbare as it is for traditional refugees, that others wouldn't have. So this is super important, just to give Afghan refugees some sort of safety net here, because it's I don't understand why this is the designation, but that's what the Biden administration is doing.
And the PARS offers legal assistance for individuals in Afghanistan, and there is there's expenses. I think it's like $500 and some odd for an application. People don't have that money. In fact, maybe we can get Ronald Reagan to call in and do so, to tell us about parolees. He can give us a better sense of what's happening there. And we'll hear from Ronald Reagan about this. Let me read some IMs. Kowalski from Nebraska. Dang, Sam, didn't realize you were canceling. You go, yeah, you already said that. Dave just read Atlas Shrugged for the first time and is trying to describe Gads Gulch. Cosmo Possum. Centennial celebration of the Battle of Blair Mountain is underway in West Virginia. Kim Kelly is there. Maybe worth being here to see if she'd like to talk about her experience there. Kim Kelly is an independent journalist. She's written in The Nation about the United Miners strike that's going on in Brookwood, Alabama. They've been striking since April, I think it was, or prior to that. 1,100 miners there. And Shane from Canada.
Just a quick, we'll be doing a Battle of Blair Mountain with the historian Charles Keeney next week on Left Reckoning.
Check that out, folks. Let's go. All right. Calling from a 509 area code. Look what you did.
Hey, it's Ronald Reagan.
Yes, I know. I assumed it was.
What's going on?
Hi, Ronald Reagan. Congratulations. Do you feel good now?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm more of a newsletter guy these days.
Even reading the AM Quickie newsletter, is that right?
Yeah, I appreciate Corey. And it's real quick, get to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyways, I appreciate what you're doing. You look great.
Thank you.
I really liked your last spread. I thought that was, it took you a while to find where the last were, but once you did, I thought you nailed it.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the shirt. This is compliments of Ronald Reagan, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it's the Thanos shirt. There it is.
Yeah, how did you find this, Reagan?
I just Googled Thanos handcuff, and one of those weird internet websites where you can buy all kinds of stuff.
Oh, like it seems like it's sold at a Spencer's or something like that.
Just can't believe
Yeah.
that your family allows you to do things like this.
Well, I donated $169 to YouTube because that's how it shows up. And I immediately set off the fraud alert, and my wife started frantically texting me like, "We're being hacked." I think she thought we were either being hacked or I was under some weird porn thing, which was probably worse for her. Anyways, TMI.
Right?
What was I gonna say? Oh, so about the parolee situation, that makes a really good point. So they will presumably be coming in and being placed in removal proceedings where they can present their asylum application. And this is what most of my Mexican clients go through. It's a real headache. To do this, they could get a work permit, might be 6 months after they arrive. And then they're probably going to be dealing with 3 to 5 years of removal proceedings and going to court. And in those proceedings, they're not provided with attorneys or legal representation. All the proceedings are carried on obviously in English. The application for asylum is in English. The court doesn't provide interpreters or anything like that. So the money you're raising is really important, and you need to keep pushing the government to parole as many people as they can.
And is there any mechanism for the government to provide resources to parole these people, or is it just going to be like, you need to have people need to wear, shirtless T-shirts and raise money for these folks?
Yeah, so some of the money that's being raised is for the parole application, which has a filing fee. I think it's over $500.
It's like $575, I think it was.
Right, and don't tell me my but you're right. And I think it's the Attorney General basically the government could issue a broad fee waiver if they wanted. There is a fee waiver application, but it's convoluted and it's rejected for simple mistakes and things like that. So there's definitely a way that you can pave the way to make things cheaper. And even like the issue with the work permits once they get here, that was one thing that caused huge headaches with the Trump administration because he was trying to basically take away parolees' abilities to get a work authorization after they arrive. The idea was we would disincentivize asylum seekers if they heard back home that actually once you get here you can't work and life is terrible. So that was the whole point behind that policy. So there are definitely things that the current administration could do to just sort of facilitate getting here. Obviously, that's the number one thing. And then once they're here, just making it easier, not for them to get Obama phones or whatever, although that's probably a good idea. But just like the ability to go get a job,
Right.
It has major obstacles that can be cleared. So Yeah.
And how easy would it be for the administration to reverse those policies? I mean, I'm thinking about like the Remain in Mexico and the argument by the Supreme Court that like you didn't have sufficient cause to change this policy.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff I think would be pretty easy to roll back or easier to roll back, but that case is showing just like a lot of times we have to use the judiciary to stop some things like the Muslim ban.
Right.
It turns out there's more conservative jurisdictions where these weird challenges are being brought in. The Supreme Court is, surprise, surprise, like right there with having their back. So I don't know specifically how each of those things would be handled in court, but I think a lot of them would fly under the radar and wouldn't cause so much of a disturbance, I don't think. I mean, certainly like fee waivers or, facilitating the work authorization process for parolees, that should be pretty simple.
And then you have the Biden administration probably still, although maybe they're over this by now, the fear of Tucker Carlson complaining that there's been, 200,000 Afghans are coming in, they're taking all the jobs and changing the electorate. Right.
Well, the one thing that just drives me crazy is at the same time, we have all these, the traditional fear-mongering argument. We're about to pass a farm worker bill that in reconciliation or reconciliation that basically amounts to like interest servitude, and then also an increase in the number of temporary agricultural workers in the future. And in other words, like we have an agricultural industry that's saying like that's desperate for workers, and then we also have people who are desperate to get here, and it drives me crazy that we can't just like align these things, but that's where we are, right?
And well, the value of having the temporary workers in there is that they don't have the same protections if they were citizens. They don't have the same opportunity to agitate for higher wages if they were citizens, and they're still very much at the whim of all sorts of forces that they have no control over.
Right, that's right. And I think to read there's like some FAQs from the farm worker, different farm workers, or not farm workers, but farmer associations. And all of their concerns are like, we get papers for our current workforce. Aren't they all just going to leave? And then the response is, well, don't worry, built into this farm worker bill is the provision that they have to keep working in the field for an additional 4 to 8 years to get permanent status. And so, that's exactly right. The farmers have this concern that as soon as we legitimize their workforce, they're going to go do something else.
Right.
Or they're going to get a higher paying job. And so, we had to, quell their fears by forcing the farmers to stay in the field for an additional period of time. Anyway, that's a sidetrack. But the point is, there are going to be stealing jobs. There's plenty of opportunities for people in this country to make a living and support their families, whether it's or anything else. And
Well, Ron Reagan, thanks for calling and telling us about the Afghan who are sort of refugees, I guess, in a euphemistic way or a colloquial way, but they are entering these countries as parolees, which is a much more arduous process in terms of both getting in terms of the resources that you need, and in terms of sustaining yourself.
That's right. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate the call and the shirt, sort of. Call from a 201 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Happy Friday, folks. It's Hunter Biden calling from Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah. Unconfined, thank you so much for calling in. It's doing great. How you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. I always got a glass pecker in my pie hole and a vibrating one in my beehole.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, glad to hear.
Just saying, as an aside, I thought it was going to be something fun out there.
You thought it was going to be what?
Oh, wait, it was sun's out, buns out. I don't know.
No, sun's out, guns out, not buns.
I wore the wrong pants, sorry.
Alright,
But, I just wanted to, I know it's a long time coming, and whatever, but I really want to thank that club for, I would like from you, and that really propelled us into the White House, and sorry, I'm getting a little choked up.
well,
No, I mean, I'm literally being choked right now.
who was choking you?
I don't worry about it.
Alright.
My day off.
It's your day off, I understand. From what?
The painting.
You did.
How much did it go for?
I'm gonna sell that bad boy for 200 barge. I'm switching careers.
Right, you're painting now. And
Do you know who bought it?
I was told that it was because she does not allow you to know. But I get thank you cards, from all over the world for showing me in various gold plated rooms. It's really special. But I also wanted to call and talk about as the first boy, right? I'm the first boy in the United States.
yeah.
And, as the first boy, I am starting an initiative in my office. And we're going to do good out there. And, in our attempts to fight racism, sometimes we forget that one of the most pervasive dynamics of racism is stereotypes. And my office is going to be addressing one of the most insidious stereotypes that has been in our culture for far too long.
Which is that?
About how I already got that whole job. I'm going to be pointing. Liam Neeson, Colin Farrell, Michael Fassbender. I've got to call in Beto O'Rourke, so I'm waiting for a pick from him. But he's still in the game, so And we're going to fight this because it's not true. This is a escape rumor started by the Italians. They're jealous of us.
Well,
and we're going to take this apart. And you know what? It's not going to be easy. It's going to be long, hard.
yeah. Well,
it's a sticky situation.
yeah, I know. I appreciate that. Unconfined, thank you for calling in, and wish you good luck with that initiative project. That's well done. Yeah, there you go. Wow. That's what happens. That's what happens. You wear a tank top and all hell breaks loose. Josh Herzl doing a $50 donation once. I'm losing it, bro. I mean, we are over now. We're over $11,000.
Wow. That's not even counting the super chats.
It's not counting the super chats, which so
I have to flex.
we're doing great. Let's see.
Well, you just put on a workout video.
Let's see. Afghan rollies. Oh, wow. Like literally all of this flexing comes from seeing Pee Wee Herman
of myself up there.
Alright, I think we're good. I knew this day would come, but I didn't expect it so soon.
Oh, God. So glad we did this on a Friday and not a Thursday. It would, Brandon, it would look a little like super embarrassing to try and do anything like this. Clown Shoe Mike, can someone check the levels or is that tank top too loud? We already did that. I literally spit out my drink watching Sam flex while saying, I'm decided. Let's see. Bob Carmody, that's the latest collection from the Fred. That's the latest from the Fred Flintstone collection, isn't it? Amanda's huge and kiss. Suns out, buns out is the only way Sam's gonna get any money from this comedy. Buns are best. Mini doctors. No one can ever unsee this, Sam. Hearing atheist. Call the vet. Sam's pythons are sick. True. Tyler will never let me live this down. Your ex-wife is gonna see this, yeah. Oh my God, Sam, that shirt is so outrageously hideous that John Stennett couldn't make it look good. Where's the Reagan phone call into the show? Oliver Wendell Holmes, I had no idea Richard Simmons had a political match. That's what I keep saying now. That is exactly what it is.
It's a roller skate.
Oh gosh. Crowder Coward, kiss the biceps. I did. Kilo, $52 for a trap flex. What is it? Trap
The lower side back by your obliques.
Yeah, I don't think I have those. Colin from Nebraska. Shout out to Riley, Pat Becca, and Salt T. Wiener. Bobby D. A new genre called evidentical. Jersey Max. I want Sam to, Hassan better be wearing a tank when I switch over. It's always snowy in Ottawa. I'm calling on the letter hack to make a Guns Out Sam comic panel. I would pay money for a poster of Sam holding the oversized commissary key in the classic He-Man pose. By the power of Brooklyn.
I love that glow. This is very Thanos. Got the world in the palm of that hand.
Are you playing?
It's from other room.
Oh boy. It's honestly going to take me, thank God we're doing a long weekend, because it's going to take me a long time to recover from this.
You're going to be drinking.
DMV listener, dear God, if there was ever a time we needed Michael, I know you would be dying right now. With laughter. Coach McCurk, Sam showing off the guns to the ladies. That's the constitutional carry right there.
Really cool, Sam Steele. What a fucking nightmare.
It's really more of a sleeveless blouse. Michael's looking down. He doesn't love this. 70s porn music, please. Twitter GIF montage. Tim Caucus, drinking apple cider, the best gun show on YouTube. This is the best way to end summer. Artifact 101. Why am I thinking of Richard Simmons? Yeah, you're not the first person to say that.
Just push your hair up a little bit more.
I got both like sort of traumatized and just embarrassed in a multitude of ways. Chuck Grassley, can't believe you all sold out to the military industrial capital. This is the most pro-tank, pro-gun show I've ever seen. DJ Cold Case, the MR Discord community supports Sam's right to bear arms. Thank you. Uncle Junior, stop copying. Uncle Junior Soprano, stop copying my style. Reese's Pieces, this tops Ben Shapiro's flexing tenfold. I don't know. My friend Charlie saw this. I don't know how that happened.
Ben Shapiro flexing?
He just turned on the show. Is it an OnlyFans? Now, we are raising funds, Charlie, for Afghan essentially refugees, but parolees coming to this country. We are going to split the proceeds equally between three organizations: the Afghan Diaspora for Equality and Progress, the International Rescue Committee, and PAR's Equality Center. And we have raised now, I mean, I would imagine over $13,000, at the very least 12,556. But we have a bunch of super chats too. You guys are really awesome. This is really great. I'm almost happy I did this. Drew McLean, best casual Friday ever. Republican wrestling coach, you need to take calls today. Call from 204 area code. Who's this? 204 area code. Who's this?
Hi, Sam. It's Mike from Winnipeg. How are you?
Mike from Winnipeg. I'm okay.
I just wanted to say thanks first of all for the new Tinder pic on my profile. I just got to Photoshop my face on there, and I don't think I can reach.
Check my Twitter for some instant retweeting of everybody making those things.
Oh God.
Anyways, one topic I wanted to call in about for a while now. You had a caller call in a while back and talking about plant-based eating and heart disease. And I'm just wondering if plant-based eating is something you guys have explored from a left perspective and having someone on to talk about, because I think there's a lot of aspects to it that can affect the left in a number of positive ways. I kind of take the approach myself. I've been doing this for the last 4 years, where I kind of switch my diet up. That I'm not like a zealot, like the vegans who say anytime you eat meat, you're performing murder, it's cruel, or anything like that. But the more you look into plant-based eating, and if you talk to people who know, it has a lot of great ramifications for, first of all, health. And I mean, if you talk about an issue that's affecting you guys down there, that just makes me sick that you guys don't have Medicare for all. But the fact that, healthcare prevention is just one way where it's, I think, something you can get a lot easier than actually trying to get something like Medicare for all in place anytime soon. And I mean, if you look at what plant-based eating can do from a health perspective, a lot of the chronic diseases that everyone's suffering from, that they can't afford pharmacare for, that they can't afford, they can't afford their medicine, they can't afford to go to the doctor for, diseases like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, the number one killers. A lot of this stuff can be reversed, and this is scientifically proven by a diet like this. And I just wonder if you would consider having someone on to discuss it. It's not to mention the environmental impacts, right? I mean, you've got a huge change if there's less, resources devoted to meat and cattle raising and stuff like that. And, I'm with Matt on the, I know we brought it before that, us making individual changes isn't going to fix the problems like the big companies and corporations who are the major polluters there. But if our attitudes and our diets change, that's going to kind of force a change in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think there's some.
And I'll just, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I think a really great guest for you guys to have on to discuss kind of the far-reaching effects. And I don't know what his politics are, but I know that everything he does is very medically sound, backed up by actual studies, multiple studies, etc. Is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Michael Greger. He's got a website called nutritionfacts.org, and I think it'd be great for you guys to look into it and potentially have him on as a guest just to discuss all the benefits of it and how it can affect people. I mean, everything from food deserts to more affordable food, because plant-based eating is way more affordable. I mean, there's just so many aspects to it that it touches. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say. But he's out there. Big fan of the show, guys, and I'll let you go.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Appreciate the call. It's been a long time since we had. It's been to talk about that specifically. I mean, I think, from an environmental standpoint, from a climate change standpoint, from a, it makes a huge difference from a health standpoint. Certainly, the less meat you eat, I think the more you're going to avoid a lot of health issues. Mile and I were talking about this the other day, but we, I have made, you can encouraging my kids to have less meat in our diets. We're picking a couple of days where it's like no meat on those days, minimal meat on other days. But yeah, I think that, at one point we should do that. I mean, from a policy standpoint, the big thing, it seems to me, would be to cut back on our subsidies for corn and beef, which sounds counterintuitive, but the corn that we grow in this country is not all, but the vast majority is all for livestock. And the promotion of factory farms and it was basically a decision by the Commerce Secretary under Nixon to make food cheaper in some way.
I applaud people making dietary choices. I don't eat beef very much at all anymore, and I do meatless days. And I like what the caller said about, it's not if you're trying to sell somebody on going entirely vegan, but like really be conscious about cutting back, I think is important. I think as a point of emphasis for a political show, I think it is more important to talk about the big things and egg policy and stuff like that. But as far as individuals, I don't eat burgers and steak as much as I used to at all anymore. It's been a while for health and environmental reasons.
I have not had a meat hamburger for, I don't know, a couple of years. I had my first Impossible burger, and I was like, I don't know the health. I don't know that it's like an Impossible burger necessarily, or a Beyond Burger, or whatever those are necessarily healthier in some respects. I don't know. But I was like, I don't miss the burger when I eat this, right. So it's like I'm done. I'm done with the hamburger, and I don't have steak that often.
A good way to start, and this is kind of what I've been doing. If you're like not into meatless days, or it's hard for you to do that right away, is just have one meal a day that has meat in it. That's something I've been trying to do to wean myself off of meat, and like I have my family.
Multiple meals a day,
Well,
I used to not breakfast, but lunch and dinner. I would eat beef pretty much every single.
A sandwich, or right. I mean, I basically only eat chicken at this point too, but yeah, no. I mean, there are multiple ways to do it, and what feels good for you. Like that. I just liked having like chicken sausage in the morning to get myself some protein, but yeah, I get it.
I think it would be very hard for me to give up eggs. That is like
you do love eggs.
Eggs are the staple of my diet.
I love eggs too.
But everything else certainly doable. Somebody just IM'd any thoughts on Fran Drescher becoming the new SAG-AFTRA president? I didn't realize she won. I was a Matthew Modine voter.
What is this?
This is the SAG-AFTRA union presidents.
Oh, I like Fran Drescher. She's cool.
Yeah, but from a union standpoint, their perspective is not so good.
Okay. You tell me later, maybe.
Yeah. Calling from an 847 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from? Hello, who's this? Where you calling from? Josh from Kansas City, Missouri. What's up?
I just want to talk about something that Emma talked about last week about charter schools, and I guess just sort of my personal experience with them.
Okay.
Me and my family, we moved to Hawaii, and the public schools over there are really bad. So we ended up having me go to a charter school for a couple years. Fun fact was 2 years afterwards, I found out it closed down. Not from losing funding or any of that. It closed down because they got closed by the state because they had huge corruption issues. The principal, the vice principal, they were going on like international trips and then just saying, we're just recruiting people. So it's that goes into like the charter school that really just we just make some money.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think is important too that I don't recall you guys talking about are with charter or private interesting as not just religious schools, but also political schools. Because after that charter school, I didn't go back to public. I went to a private Baptist school that was really cheap compared to the really expensive ones that President Obama went to, like Punao. And that place, I have never heard more shit watching that or being there. Like, even compared to some of the stuff like Alex Jones is saying.
Well, I wouldn't send my child to a religious school, but the issue, the distinction between charters and parochial schools, it seems to me, in terms of like a function of government support. I mean, the problem with charter schools, broadly speaking, is that that they take away funding from the normal public school system. They do so in most instances, depends on what state you're in, with virtually no oversight on how that money is spent. They also do so without having the same.
Hey, what's up? I'm Lord Woodchinder. Now, have you ever gone to the music store?
Oh boy, this is not comfortable at all. This is so, ladies and gentlemen, this don't take a picture. This is don't take a picture. I guess it disappoints me. What's going on? Like, oh, there we go. Like now, I'm like, all right. Well, part of it. Let me just start this way. So, I have a semi-dislocated shoulder.
Okay.
Which I've never talked about because I not had to show it on for three organizations that help Afghan people in resettle, and one is the Afghan Diaspora for Equality and Progress. One is the International Rescue Committee. And the third is PAR's Equality Center. They all do different things. We're going to link on that GoFundMe site. You can get to the GoFundMe site by going to bit.ly / all lowercase letters MR, uppercase A, the rest lowercase Afghan. So it's bit.ly / MR Afghan, and the A is a capital letter. We also have it under the YouTube.
I tweeted out the link along with some photos of you. And
do not tweet out photos. Oh my God.
What are you talking about? It's we're broadcasting it.
Wow, gosh.
$8,500, by the way, $8,500.
$8,500, and then also we've got a bunch on Super Chat too. I don't know. We don't have a tally there.
I also just want to just mention, because the Washington Post wrote about this yesterday, about the Afghan refugees. They're technically not refugees. They're arriving as humanitarian parolees, and so they don't have the ability to, as the U.S. withdraws from Afghanistan.
Oh boy, this is really
changed. There's less, resources to meet and cattle raising and stuff like that. And I'm with Matt on the. I know he brought it before that us making individual changes isn't going to fix the problems with the big companies and corporations who are the major polluters there. But if our attitudes and our diets change, that's going to kind of force a change in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think there's some.
And I'll just go ahead. I was just going to say I think a really great guest for you guys to have on to discuss kind of the far-reaching effects. And I don't know what his politics are, but I know that everything he does is very medically sound, backed up by actual studies, multiple studies, etc. Is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Michael Greger. He's got a website called nutritionfacts.org, and I think it'd be great for you guys to look into it and potentially have him on as a guest just to discuss all the benefits of it and how it can affect people. I mean, everything from food deserts are more affordable food because plant-based eating is way more affordable. I mean, there's just so many aspects that it touches. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say. He's up there. Big fan of the show, guys. I'll let you go.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again.
Appreciate the call. Thank you. It's been a long time since we had. It's been years since we've had somebody on to talk about that specifically. I mean, I think, from an environmental standpoint, from a climate change standpoint, From a it makes a huge difference from a health standpoint. Certainly, the less meat you eat, I think the more you're going to avoid a lot of health issues. And I mean, I would talk about this. I've made it. Encouraging my kids to make have less meat in our diets. We're picking a couple of days where it's like no meat on those days, minimal meat on other days. But yeah, I think at one point we should do that. I mean, from a policy standpoint, the big thing it seems to me would be to cut back on our subsidies for corn and which sounds counterintuitive, but the corn that we grow in this country is all, not all, but the vast majority is all for livestock. And the promotion of factory farms and is I mean, it was a decision by the Commerce Secretary under Nixon to make food cheaper in some way.
I applaud people making dietary choices. I don't eat beef very much at all anymore, and I do meatless days. And I like what the caller said about, it's not you're trying to sell somebody on going entirely vegan, but like really being conscious about cutting back, I think is important. I think as a point of emphasis for a political show, I think it is more important to talk about the big polluters and egg policy and stuff like that. But as far as individuals, I don't eat burgers and steak as much as I used to at all anymore. It's been a while for health and environmental reasons.
I have not had a meat hamburger for a couple of years. I had my first Impossible Burger, and I was like, I don't know the health. I don't know that it's like an Impossible Burger necessarily, or a Beyond Burger, or whatever those are necessarily healthier in some respects. I don't know. But I was like, I don't miss the burger when I eat this. Right. So it's like I'm done. I'm done with the hamburger, and I don't have steak that often.
A good way to start, and this is kind of what I've been doing, if you're like not into meatless days or it's hard for you to do that right away, is just have one meal a day that has meat in it. That's something I've been trying to do to wean myself off of meat, and like I have my
multiple meals a day.
I used to do that. I used to do
a sandwich or right. I mean, I basically only eat chicken at this point too. But I mean, there are multiple ways to do it and what feels good for you. Like that I just liked having like chicken sausage in the morning to get myself some protein. But
I think it would be very hard for me to give up eggs. That is like
you do love eggs.
Eggs are the staple of my diet.
I love eggs too.
But everything else certainly doable. Somebody just IM'd any thoughts on Fran Drescher becoming the new SAG-AFTRA president? I didn't realize she had won. I was a Matthew Modine voter.
What is this?
SAG-AFTRA. Union presidents.
I like Fran Drescher. He's cool.
Yeah, but from a union standpoint, their perspective is not so good.
Okay. You tell me later, maybe.
Yeah. Calling from an 847 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Hello? Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Josh from Kansas City, Missouri.
Josh from Kansas City, Missouri. What's up?
I just want to talk about something that Emma talked about, I believe, last week, about charter schools and I guess just sort of my personal experience with them.
Okay.
Me and my family, we moved to Hawaii, and the public schools over there are really bad. So we ended up having me go to charter school for a couple of years. And the fun fact was 2 years afterwards, I found out at each state because they had huge corruption issues. The principal, the vice principal, they were going on like international trips and then just saying, no, we're just recruiting people. So it's that goes to like the charter school, the religious, way to make some money.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think is important too, that I don't recall you guys talking about, there was charter or private schools that are religious institutions that are also functioning as not just religious schools, but also political schools. Because after that charter school, I didn't go back to public. I went to a private Baptist school that was really cheap compared to the really expensive ones that President Obama went to, like Punahou. And that place, I have never heard more crazy, insane shit watching that or being there. Like even compared to some of the stuff like Alex Jones was saying. Like,
well, let me I mean, I wouldn't send my child to a religious school, but the issue, the distinction between charters and parochial schools, it seems to me, is in terms of like a function of government support. I mean, the problem with charter schools, broadly speaking, is that that they take away funding from the normal public school system. They do so in most instances, depends on what state you're in, with virtually no oversight on how that money is spent. They also do so without having the same restrictions. I mentioned this the other day, that schools are obligated to provide a appropriate education for all students. So we have students who have learning challenges, if they have health challenges, the school must accommodate them. Charter schools usually find, they either explicitly or they find subtle ways in which to weed those people out. And there's not any evidence that charter schools as a whole perform any better than public schools. Some charter schools do really well. Some public schools do really well. It's a function of really charter schools in many respects, sort of weeding out not just the students, but the parents that are associated with it. And then, as a function of the lack of oversight, you do have a lot more stories of corruption at charter schools than you do at public schools, simply because there's not the same opportunities. When it comes to private schools, as long as they're not being funded by the government, which one could argue that just in their sheer tax break, parochial schools often are, but then I have less of an issue with that. I mean, as a matter of public policy, personally, as a parent, I imagine that in circumstances, I can imagine sending my child to a private school, but I probably, it's not. I don't think of it as something that, that's certainly not something I would do, because I think public school would be part of like the system. But appreciate the call. Thanks, man. Good story. All right. Did I miss the Reddit TikTok news story about the abortion ban? Yeah, should we show that? Do we have any audio about that or no? Just the so apparently there was a what would you call it, like a tip line?
Yeah, for these the Texas bounty system.
Yes, and it was the organization that had set it up that had set up this tip line essentially, and you guys can find the story. It's in the Guardian. This has a copy of it. There was a tip line, and people started flooding the tip line with fake reports. There was apparently over 700 fake reports of the governor, Greg Abbott, getting an illegal abortion. And TikTok basically, here, play some of these videos here, guys. Yeah, here it is. This is
This is why they're better than us.
And they loaded the Shrek memes, and my wife aborted a baby 4 weeks ago into a pregnancy without consulting me. Shrek, and there was a lot of. They just went big on this on TikTok. Play a couple of these videos; it's pretty awesome. ProLifeWhistleblower.com was the tip line site, and Twitter, TikTok, all of them. Here, play one of these.
All right, y'all, we're going to mess with Greg Abbott and all the other idiots that decided to outlaw abortion in Texas after 6 weeks. Thank you so much to my friend Olivia for coming up with this absolutely brilliant idea. If you go to ProLifeWhistleblower.com, which I'm going to put in the caption down below, you can see that Texas has anonymously set up a system where you can report people who have gotten abortions. Wouldn't it be so awful if we sent in a bunch of fake tips and crashed the site? Like, Greg Abbott's butt stinks. Spelled wrong, of course, because he deserves zero respect. How did you obtain this evidence? Smells like from here, in California. The doctor responsible, Dr. Stinkbutt. For the geographical information, just pick a random place in Texas, random city and zip code, and are you currently elected to public office? Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. Yay!
Now, the public office thing is interesting because they cannot respond to that. I think the reason why they ask that question is because they want to make sure that there is no legal action that can be taken if a public official does that. But interesting. I wonder if there is a public official out there who could actually call it in just as a way of providing some type of means in which someone could. I don't know if that would work, but all right, a couple more IMs and then we're getting out of here. We're done with the phone calls, folks. Robo Gorka, John Benjamin just wants to see you get the baby oil out. Toodles, Dave is being transgressive and then expects people to treat him warmly. Attorney Andrew, one thing people don't truly understand about the Supreme Court is that they can decide whatever they want and write whatever they want. If the justices are brazen enough, they can repeatedly publish opinions that flat out say your rights are denied, followed by gifts of the jerk-off hand motion. The only reason they write out their opinion is to provide a facade of legitimacy. Pure curium decision on the Texas abortion ban is exactly that. It's the court saying, F you, buddy, shut up and take it, yet they still color it in some bullshit about the requirements for emergency injunctive relief. At its core, there is nothing checking their power and authority outside of an overwhelming popular will to the contrary. Indeed. Jake the Teacher. New school board watch list was launched by Turning Points USA. They want folks to stand up against Marxist teachers and anti-American curricula. Any support for a Discord channel to yank their cranks? Folks in the Discord can maybe figure out a way in which we can do that.
Yeah, let me know. Papa says it.
Animal psyche being actually magnetic would be so cool.
I know.
Folks, just a little bit of housekeeping. On Monday, it's Labor Day. We're going to play our traditional Labor Day podcast. I don't think we have a video offering for that day. Tuesday is Rosh Hashanah. I am out, but we will have a new interview. Emma's on vacation next week, so we'll have a new interview that we're going to put up on Tuesday, and then back live on Wednesday. We got to tell Dorsey that. I don't even think we told Dorsey. I screwed up in that regard. Our total now is over $13,000 on, at least on the GoFundMe, and $13,155. We have
Hundreds more on the super chat.
I would imagine at least, and yeah, we're gonna check that out. That's awesome. You guys are just awesome. I'm really just proud of you guys, and it'll make it a little bit less painful as I look back on this. Let me do a couple more IMs, and then I'll do a couple more flexes, and we'll get out of here. Singular phenomenon. Seeing so much dumb Joe Biden Taliban memes lately would have made for a great Michael Brooks character. Taliban, or if you will, Uja Biden. Love the show, left his fast. That's pretty good. Trash Digger, more music for the flexes, please. Ryan Right hand lefty. Can't wait to hear stories about Sam kids sharing clips of this on TikTok. Fadeaway J. Sam, thanks for the new pic for my Tinder account. Photoshop. Oh, somebody read that already. Sam's butt joint. I'd like to see you join the ranks of jacked up lefties with Hassan and Felix. Get on that HGH stuff. Yeah, I don't think that's going to quite happen. Governor HVAC, Sam and Emma need to recreate the epic handshake meme so we can immortalize those pythons. What does the handshake mean?
Like the you know.
It's like a black muscle man and a white muscle man.
Oh, do I? This
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't really want to touch you.
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't. Yeah, I think it's best. Dr. Cass, I'm D with Dave's Rubin stance on building codes. I recommend no one enter or be near anything he builds, let alone in the entire world. Robo Cat, looking forward to all the viewer-created content that will come from today's gun show. I'm about to have a panic attack. Freedom Poutine, nice to know what half the memes on my Twitter feed are going to be for the next month. Koosh, SO Sam for the pro-gun proletariat propaganda. And Comrade, greeting card, Sam, my son was born last Saturday. I was hoping you'd mispronounce his name. Caden, and maybe a shofar. Well, Kadeen, Kaiden. There you are. Welcome to the world, buddy. Sorry. And let's see. Take a couple more here, and then we'll get going. Teacher Lauren. Oh boy, charter school call. My blood pressure just shot up. Happy Friday to you and those guns. Let's see. Take cares better dogs. Sam need to do the dab that Emma told him never to do again. I'll do that as we close it out.
Yeah, I'll do it, Sam.
And Torque. Oh boy, here we go. This is too much. Sam and crew on the Texas anti-abortion. Have you seen any commentary on the practical legal nightmare that might arise for people starting an industry of scammers suing random people in bad faith to extort settlement money? Yeah, no kidding, right? Fairchild, I'm broke. Thanks for the free gun show. And the final IM of the day. Penny from New Mexico. Curious as to why you and Digby talk about voter turnout being helpful for upcoming federal elections amidst Republican voter suppression laws and redistricting. Well, I think that is redistricting and voter suppression exists, period. I think we can still have a higher turnout. There's a lot of people who are registered who don't turn out for midterm elections. And that's why.
Yeah, we had voter suppression last time, and also federal elections turn people out.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be, and we're going to see more. It's going to be harder for people to vote, without a doubt. But that's why you want more voter turnout, particularly in a midterm election. All right, folks, that's all our time for the I am and the phone call portion of our show. And if we get a little bit of music, we'll play out. Thank you so much. We have raised so much money for these folks. You can go to our podcast or our YouTube to get the link. It is bit.ly/MRAfghan with the A capitalized. bit.ly/MRAfghan with the A capitalized. And here we go. Let's start with the dab, shall we?
Go, do it simultaneously. We gotta go.
Wait, 1, 2, 3.
Wait.
There we go.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, come on, man. So the street I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I was looking and I just got caught. See the truth in the lies bar. Find it out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking.
Hello, it's me, Turbo Slarbo. Today I would like to talk about the Muppets, how they are real, how they are dangerous, how they've already taken Manhattan and left to their own devices. Who knows? Perhaps some sort of great caper? I was supposed to write a script about the Muppets and the very real threat I believe they pose. But instead what I did was I read on Wikipedia about the lore for Vampire the Masquerade, tabletop RPG that I will never play. Because there was a lot of types of vampire, and for some reason, I needed to know all of them at that moment. So, unfortunately, I do not have a script. And I have not done any research about the Muppet threat. So, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this week. I don't know if I can be here. Let's just go. Let's just go outside. I can't even believe I'm saying this. I'm getting a little sick of being stuck down here in a sewer full of toxic waste. It's getting old. Okay, so we're just gonna go out. I'm gonna grab my skateboard. We're gonna get outside. I just need to find my water bottle, my sunglasses, my keys, and then we're good to go. As you can see, I've newly gripped my skateboard, and yes, I did grip over the bolts. So, next time I need to remove my trucks, I have no idea how I'm going to do that. Probably have to buy more grip tape and do it again. Cool. Great. Love it. Love that for me. I have no idea where my water bottle is. We'll just find a convenience store and I can buy water if I get thirsty, so that's fine. Mask. The mask. I need a mask. Okay, we're good now. Gotta be safe. Okay, we're good. I always had trouble with road memorization. And when I say trouble with, I mean I just can't do it. Like, there are certain things that are easy to remember, but you give me, for example, like a phone number, that's out of my brain immediately. I've been married to my wife for a year now, and I still don't remember her phone number. She hasn't changed
spaced it in like 6 years would fit together. I don't know, you just give me a list of something and it just leaves my brain immediately. I'm like, oh, sorry, a little short-term memory. Sorry you never got to be a long-term memory. Bye-bye. That really frustrates people I know because in a lot of other areas I have a really good memory. Like, I can remember the exact plot of any movie I've ever seen, like down to the finest detail, complete with lines of dialogue that I liked. I can remember like 700 items in the Binding of Isaac Rebirth. But if you ask me to name the 10 provinces of Canada, I'm not sure impressed that I could do it. In fact, I tried to do it when writing this script, and I got 9 because I forgot the province that I live in. And of course, to me, that seems perfectly natural. Of course, I'm going to remember the things that interest me. Of course, no amount of stress, shame, or pressure is going to get me to care about things that I don't care about, like the country that I live in. Of course, I can spend hours learning and memorizing random bullshit I'll never need, but the minute I have to sit down and write a script, mainly involving sitting down, reading lots of shit, and memorizing a lot of bullshit I don't need, of course I can spend hours on Wikipedia just reading and memorizing a bunch of bullshit I'll never need. Or like, the minute it's time to start researching for a video, which I spend most of my time just on Wikipedia, researching and memorizing a bunch of shit I'll never need. My brain's like, nah, can't do it. Don't know how to do it, won't do it. It's just how the human brain is, I thought. It doesn't like doing useful things. I'm starting to think that filming the video on the skateboard not gonna look as cool as it did in my head. It's not gonna have like a Casey Neistat feel to it. It's gonna look like a dork. Really struggling to keep this camera up while skating. And not like I have a boring job. I mean, I have basically the dream job for me, which is just following whatever nonsense I'm interested in that week. If I want to make a video where I talk about Superman, I can do that. If I want to make a video where I talk about a cookie clicker, you guys like it. And that's really weird. I like to come up with ideas. I like to write the general outline of an essay. But the minute I have to sit down and actually write the damn thing, my brain decides, hey, you know what? You know what you need right now is a cup of coffee. And then I drink the coffee. And then my stomach is upset. So I'm like, okay, time to eat some food. Does that help your stomach? And then I have to chop every vegetable in my house. And then I realize, hey, wait a minute. I have to eat because I drank so much coffee. And then I go to pee and I realize my bed's not made. Why haven't I made my bed? So I have to make my bed. And then I realize, hey, wait a minute. Why did I come in the bedroom in the first place? There was something I had to do. And you see in the thumbnail, you know where the story's going, but I gotta tell it like a story because I can only remember things in story. Like, you tell me something any other way, gone, out of my brain. But for some reason, if you make it a bunch of characters or motivations and have them all interact, then I can contextualize it, and that helps me remember it. I think this is why I have, like, an absurdly good ability to tell stories. Not in the sense that, like, my stories are good, but that I can just think of them, like, instantly. It takes zero effort for me. And I thought that just everybody could do that. Like, I remember I was working this job where me and this lady had to come up with a story together, and we only had a general outline, so I threw out, like, 6 ideas, just like, bang, 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 bang. Use one of those if you want. And she looks at me like, how did you do that? And so I thought she was making fun of me. And I said, I'm sorry. Obviously, we can go with your ideas, too. I was just throwing some ideas out. She was like, we just started. I don't have ideas yet. Why do you? Which is not to say that, like, any of the stories that I think of are impressive or that I'm a particularly good writer. Just that thinking of a story, not like, again, not necessarily a good story, but just thinking of a story is a instant to me, which is just a mostly useless skill that I've always had my entire life. And I don't really know how I got onto this subject. I think I just wanted to use the word story to segue to a section talking about, like, stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, and I got kind of sidetracked with the whole thing about me being able to think of stories instantly because I felt like I was bragging, and I didn't want to look like I was bragging. I didn't want to look like anything I do ever in my life is impressive. See, I've got this story I like to tell about myself. It's the story I tell more than any other, but I don't really share it with other people. It's just something I think over and over in my head. Once upon a time, there was a little boy We didn't like to work. We liked to sit around playing with toys, video games, comic books. All of his teachers and his parents would always say, "You're so smart. If you don't be trying a little harder, I guess you just don't care." When we got a little older, and he started working jobs, he would make reckless, sloppy mistakes that his other coworkers wouldn't make. And his bosses would say, "If you just paid a little bit more attention to what you were doing, if you just worked a little harder, I guess you just don't care." As the boy got a little older than that, he started to meet girls, and sometimes he would fall in love with the girls, and he would live with them for a while. And they would start to say, "Hey, you only ever think about yourself. You're so selfish. I guess you just don't care." And the boy thought about it. He thought, "I do care. Why is it I keep making these really simple mistakes? Mistakes that anyone else would know not to make?" And he thought, and he thought, and he thought, and then he realized, aha, I've got it. I'm a huge piece of shit. I'm a big piece of garbage. I'm a stupid idiot, and I don't care about nothing. I'm a lazy moron. And he lived miserably ever after. Don't you think this is a pretty weird job to pick for somebody with self-esteem issues like I have? Like just putting myself out there, leaving myself open to anonymous criticism twice a week. Weird, right? I've never been good with criticism, not even like constructive criticism. I get real sensitive about it. I think of it like a rejection. Very sensitive to rejection. I always have been. I've always had this compulsive need to make sure that people like me, you know? And if I don't talk to someone in a while, I just start to assume they must hate my guts based on nothing. And then I get too afraid to talk to them, which makes them actually mad, which only compounds the cycle. I tend to avoid things that make me upset. I've always had trouble regulating my emotions like normal people do. Like I can't really hide it when I get upset, and I just start to cry like at the drop of a hat. I always have. Sometimes I get some of these weird fits of like apoplectic despair where I just like cry and cry and cry and I just can't stop. That's literally I do. I get coughing. I also overshare, like I just have no concept of when it is and it's not appropriate to speak. I'm always interrupting people. I just can't stand it when they're just talking. And I've got something so interesting to say, and if they just stopped, they just stopped talking, then I could say my thing that I'm dying to say. It's so important. I've got a joke, and it's very timing sensitive, and if I don't get it out right now, it's not going to be funny. Then we're all going to look like fools. I hope I don't sound too down on myself. I'm not trying to sound down on myself. Sometimes I make videos like these and people get real sad, and I don't understand why. I'm not trying to be sad. I hope this isn't a sad video. I hope I put enough content warnings at the beginning. Anyway, this is all building to something. So one day, I'm oversharing on Twitter, as I often do. And I said, "Hey, this weird thing about me that I do a lot, where I get so invested in something that I can't stop thinking about it. It's all I think about. I spend all day either thinking about it, or watching YouTube videos about it, or reading about it, trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I have time to actually sit down and film with it. Like, it's talking about hobbies, you know? Like, for me, like, it happened last year. What was it the year before? I have really bad sense of time. I completely time blank. I got so obsessed with skateboarding. I made a video about it. If you were around, you can go back and check my catalog. I made a video about how I was obsessed with skateboarding one summer. And it's like, I'm just so completely stuck on it. It's all I can think about. And then I just drop it. And I don't think about it at all anymore. And even thinking about it starts to become kind of like annoying. Like, yeah, I already did that. I already thought about that thing. So I mentioned this on Twitter. And people were like, "Oh yeah, sounds like you either have ADHD or autism." And I thought, I don't have autism. And that's not to sound dismissive of people with autism, by the way. It's just, I don't. I've never had any of the symptoms, really. Like, I've always been really good at telling them how people feel a bit too good. I can always read people's facial expressions. I don't have any sensory issues. Like there's just some sounds I don't like. Like nails on a chalkboard and stuff everybody hates. But other than that, not really. Like I know autistic people, and when they describe what they go through, it really doesn't sound like me at all. I can't really relate to it. What was the other one? ADHD. It can't be that. That doesn't make any sense. If I had ADHD, why would I focus on stuff like that? If I had a disorder that meant that I couldn't pay attention to things, why would I pay too much attention to things? That makes zero sense. That makes no sense. That can't be it. That's not it. That's not it. It can't be that. It isn't that. Just so that we can rule it out. Let's look at the symptoms, and I can show you how I don't have any of them. Okay, carelessness and lack of attention to detail. As you can see, I've newly gripped my skateboard, and yes, I did grip over the bowls. Okay, I got that one a little bit. Continuously starting new tasks before finishing old ones. Okay. The minute I have to sit down and actually write the damn thing, my brain decides, hey, you know what? You need right now is a cup of coffee, and then I drink the coffee, and then my stomach is upset, so I'm like, okay, time to eat some food. It's help your stomach, and then, yeah. I guess you got me on that one. Poor organizational skills. I was supposed to write a script about the Muppets, but instead what I did was I read on Wikipedia about the lore for Vampire the Masquerade, tabletop RPG that I will never play. Okay, I'm not great at organizing things. Nobody's good at everything. Continuously losing or misplacing things. No, that's not me. I have no idea where my water bottle is. We'll just find a convenience store and I can buy water if I get thirsty, so that's fine. Aside from my phone, my glasses, my headphones, my water bottle, my keys, my wallet, everything else I keep meticulously in the same spot all of the time because I have a lifetime of experience to tell me if I don't, I'll immediately lose it, so... Okay, yeah, I hear myself. Forgetfulness. If you guys me to name the 10 provinces of Canada, I'm not sure impressed that I can do it. In fact, I tried to do it when writing this script, and I got 9 because I forgot the province that I live in. Okay, yeah, I mean, my memory's not perfect. Difficulty keeping quiet and speaking out of turn. I also overshare, I just have no concept of when it is and it's not appropriate to speak. Putting out responses and often interrupting others. I'm always interrupting people. I just can't stand it when they're just talking. And I've got something so interesting to say that they just stopped. They just stopped talking. Then I could say my thing. Yeah, again. Talk faster. I won't be able to interrupt you. Mood swings, irritability, and a quick temper. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Oh, is that trouble regulating my emotion like normal people do? Inability to deal with stress. Nobody likes stress. I tend to avoid things that make me upset. Extreme impatience. I've got a joke and it's very timing sensitive, and if I don't get it out right now, it's not going to be fine. Taking risks and activities often with little or no regard for personal safety or the safety of others. For example, driving dangerously. Okay? Yeah, okay, so look, when you put them all together like that, yes, I do have all of them, and I have my entire life. Okay? But is that really the society we want to live in? Or just because you have all of the symptoms of a disorder, you can be diagnosed with that disorder? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was George Orwell's 1984. It's not like I have a deficit of attention. I can pay attention to things. It's just, one thing at a time. And it has to be extremely interesting for me. Or else I am going to think about something else. Or I will need something else to do to quiet my brain. But I can still focus on stuff sometimes under the right conditions. This is most unusual, but it seems like I'm getting a phone call. I never do this, but I guess I'll answer it live on video. Video new quest stunt double. Oh, hey Tristan from Step Back History. No, I've never heard of hyperfixation. What's that? See, the thing is, ADHD is not just being unable to focus on things. It can also be about not being able to control what you intensely focus on. There's something called hyperfocus, where if something scratches the right part of your brain in the right way, get that dopamine rush, you basically are unable to pull yourself away from that without an Herculean effort. There's a lot of types of vampire, and for some reason, I needed to know all of them at that moment. Whoa, weird. You probably had no way of knowing this, but that's actually really relevant to the video I'm currently filming. You know, come to think of it, that explains why the other day that neuropsychologist I was speaking to said I had ADHD. At the time, I thought that was very unusual, but now looking back, it actually makes a lot of sense. I feel so alone. If only I knew, I don't know, 15 to 20 other people who had this disorder that could maybe share some sort of message about it. I wish more people could hear. I feel like that could really do some good, but I don't know. This is so unprofessional. I'm so sorry. I do appear to be getting another phone call, and I am going to answer it also again on video. I'll remember to edit it out, though. Don't worry. Hello?
Hey, Mildred. It's Nina, Nina Wolverina, the artist who's got ADHD. Right, yeah. I was just thinking about ADHD, actually, and something not a lot of people know about it, which is the whole rejection sensitivity dysphoria thing, where if someone gives me criticism, even like super nice criticism that I should probably follow, I think about it for the rest of my life and how much they hate me because they told me they hate me to my face. Even if, you know, they definitely didn't.
Okay, sorry, I hate to do this. I'm getting another call. I'll call you back.
Hello, this is Jack Chilla. Well, as a streamer with ADHD, I want people to know that ADHD can present itself in lots of different ways, and people deserve support from their community regardless of how visible those symptoms are to neurotypicals.
Look, sorry, I hate to do this. I have another call. If I could just...
Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm a freelance writer, and I think I wish more people knew how often people with ADHD are chastised or told off.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm sorry, though. I do have another call here.
Hi, my name is Anne. I am a fan fiction writer, and I am starting the process of making a history scene about the city of Chicago. The thing that I wish more people knew about ADHD is the cycle of self-persecution, I guess I'll call it. You are productive on a thing, you feel guilty about not being productive, but then that kills your ability to be productive on the thing that you want to be.
Look, I'll call you back. There's someone else.
Hey, Hustline, this is Lady Goggles. I'm an MFA student, adjunct professor, and I create videos on YouTube. I wish people would understand the difference between executive dysfunction and being lazy. There's a huge difference. I'm often having to be responsible for a million and one things at once, and I become so paralyzed with choice that I just don't wind up doing anything. That's not laziness, that's executive dysfunction.
Statistically, this is unlikely, but I do have another call that I gotta get to. I'm sorry.
Hey there, Hustline. It's William right here. I'm a part-time translator. I really wish more people knew that they should listen to people with ADHD instead of just jumping to conclusions the second they hear those letters.
I'm getting a certain amount of calls right now, so I can just, I'm sorry that I have to cut you off.
Hi, Mildred. My name is Robert Silver. I am a partner and team manager on various other creative projects. My brain thinks at variable speeds depending on the situation and how I'm doing that day. So, some conversations I need things repeated several times, and other conversations I'm already thinking 20 steps down the line by the time we say the next sentence. So, I realize that this can be frustrating, but I don't need medication. I just need some patience and understanding.
Look, I'm sorry, we've traced the call that's coming from inside the house. I gotta go.
At the NDSB, I had an ADHD agenda podcast, and I wish that people realized how resilient and hardworking we can be despite our limitations, considering that almost a third of employers said they wouldn't hire someone with ADHD.
I'm really sorry to do this. I do have another call.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Mildred. Yeah, it's Lilith from Ghost Puncher Core, the tabletop role-playing podcast. Well, you know, when I'm in the middle of
working on something like I am now and editing an episode, I would want people to know that it's kind of hard for me to be interrupted doing something like that because I kind of get into focus mode, and it doesn't really have anything to do with how much I care about you specifically.
I don't know why people keep calling me. I have another call. I gotta.
Hey, Mildred, it's Catherine the Cabaretist. And I wish that people understood executive dysfunction, and that it's not just being lazy or procrastinating.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. I gotta hop off. I got another call.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm an online artist. I want to say, even in a country like mine with free healthcare, the system for getting medicated is hilarious. You have to be in line for like 6 months. You have to pay $1,000 out of pocket. You have to show them your bank account so that they can make sure that you're rich enough to be allowed the honor of taking ADHD medication. They have a better system for people who are notoriously bad at jumping through hoops.
We get so many calls to get through right now. I'm so sorry.
So what's happening? I wish people knew that ADHD can look like me, an overachieving adult femme. It's not all little boys who can't sit still.
It's great. That's great. I love to hear it. Thanks, but I gotta go.
Hi, it's French local YouTuber Neil Football, and a lot of people don't realize how difficult it is for adults who've never been diagnosed to be able to gain access to a diagnosis.
You're like the 30th person to call me.
My name is Adam Moore, and I'm a full-time professor and a game developer. My medication costs over $400 if my insurance refuses to cover it.
This just keeps happening.
People know about the focus, but not the hyper-focus. We can get so keyed in on things we forget to eat and sleep. I'm Mark Bucky, a Twitch streamer, and the world is on fire.
I got another call.
Hey, it's Trump Dryad from the Now YouTubers Convention. I want people to know that just because they hear this diagnosis a lot doesn't mean it's some kind of scam. Nearsightedness? Really? Seems like everybody has that nowadays.
There's another call that I have to answer now.
Hey Mildred, so one thing I wish more people knew about ADHD was just that it's less like the media portrays it, where it's like you have trouble concentrating on things you don't have interest in, because that's just kind of being human, and a lot more like you'll open the fridge and see a bunch of stuff that has no earthly place being there, like a bunch of bags of chips and stuff like that that should be in the pantry and you don't know when or how it got there. You basically have to set up all these little things I like to call tricks in order to get through kind of like normal processes that some people just take for granted. And then because the tricks become patterns, you kind of have to set up new tricks to work around those ones. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So many calls right now. I gotta get to.
Hey, my name's Inform. I do lefty videos on YouTube, mostly about disability lately, since that's a subject that I'm very familiar with, and because I'm a white man, I also do gaming streams on Twitch. Yeah, sometimes when the brain's really fried, we can just end up sitting in the same spot doing nothing for hours. It's like a superpower, but not like a fun superpower, more like a calendar man superpower.
Yeah,
That's an interesting question. Thankfully, I, Lexi, of the Lecture YouTube channel, keep an index card prepared for this very occasion. Everyone doesn't fix ADHD on its own. It gives you the tools to manage it, but you still have to learn how to use them.
ADHD, like all neurodivergencies, can go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed for years, which can take a pretty heavy toll on your mental health.
Okay.
Hi, I'm the Mad Killer 10. I make comedy videos, and the thing a lot of people don't know about ADHD is how hard it is to decide what individual symptoms actually ADHD or something of the myriad of other diseases ADHD people are likely to have.
Hey children, my name's Daisy. I'm a trainee animator living in Sydney, Australia. I got diagnosed with ADHD about a year ago, and the biggest thing that's been a relief to me is the idea that maybe I'm not just a lazy person, thinking that maybe there's a reason that I just can't get up and do things that need to be done. Even things that I want to do. I can't, go to my desk and play a video game when I want to because I can't get out of bed and stop looking at Twitter. I can't get up and unpack the dishwasher, even though having the kitchen clean would make me feel so much better. I don't know, that diagnosis was a real relief for me. And I feel like maybe we as a society just need to interrogate the concept of laziness a bit more. So
it all makes sense now. I'm not lazy or stupid. I
got a disability. I'm neurodiverse. And that means none of my mistakes are my fault. Hey, remember when I made this video? Imposter syndrome. I named my problem. I called it imposter syndrome. This burden that I've carried around with me my entire life. This feeling that everyone else can sense this greatness in me that I am unable to access. I've lived with that forever. I was right. There is something wrong with me. But I was also wrong. Because everybody was telling me that if I just changed a little bit, I could do so many great things. And they had a point. I do have that potential. But where they were wrong is that it's not me not trying that is the reason I can't do it. It's because my brain is broken. Looking back at all of those teachers that always told me, well, if you just applied yourself a little bit more, I have to ask, why do they never think to themselves, why isn't he applying himself a little bit more? Like, wouldn't his life be a lot easier if he just did the things that were expected of him? Wouldn't he be a lot happier if he got good grades instead of bad ones? He's clearly bright enough to do it, but he never does, and then he gets so upset. That's weird, isn't it? And I'd love to put it on them, but I guess I never really asked either. Looking back, it's kind of incredible that I live the life that I do. Like, I've been putting out weekly videos for, what, like 2 years now? Yeah, I don't know, on time clock. Which is an ADHD thing, apparently. Like, it's kind of impressive, I think, that after a lifetime of failing and failing and failing, I just kept trying. I didn't let the failures get me down. And eventually, I don't know, I did something. Is it something? My point is, that's not something that a lazy person does. That's not something that someone who doesn't care does. If I were just a lazy bones, I wouldn't put such pressure on myself to get a video out every week. If I was such a lazy bones, I would have given up, like when I didn't immediately get 1 million subscribers. If I didn't care, I wouldn't put in all the extra work that I do. I wouldn't go out of my way to film this outside where I can get devoured by wasps. That narrative that I've told myself my entire life, very clearly not true. And the point of this story isn't like, look how cool I am for figuring out how to live with ADHD. The point of this story is for you to ask yourself what narratives you have about yourself and whether or not they stack up to the evidence. Oh, and just because I know how comment sections work, if you're going to tell me that ADHD isn't real or that it might be real, but like nobody has it, it's completely overdiagnosed, and blah, blah, blah. I just want to say, you're so smart. You're so smart. Everybody's jealous of how smart you are. How did you figure that out? How did you get that? Because most people, what they would do is they would go with the preponderance of evidence. Most people would trust the unanimous consensus of all credible medical professionals, but you didn't. You figured it out all on your own. You're so smart. Hey, what are you doing commenting here? Go, your talents are wasted here. Go out there. Start cracking some cold cases. I bet if you looked into it, you could probably figure out who Jack the Ripper was. Because you're so smart.
Fellas, people get my phone number. Is this here the whole time? Everybody, thanks for watching this video. I know it was a bit of a weird one. I'm sorry that the camera was so close to my face so often. Realize